present.
Doug Meyer, present.
We have a quorum, and we're going to begin our meeting. It's 10:03, no, 4, pardon me. And we're going to do an agenda change, right?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we move the pool design plans up to item number 1 in section 2 under architecture, construction, and engineering, because we have our representatives here early.
I second that motion.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And passes. So we'll go right ahead with whatever we have.
Okay, well, let me talk a little about what we're doing. So we're kicking off the schematic design phase. So what we've got so far is conceptual, give you an idea of what can be built out there. So now we're going to, in this phase, we're going to really start dialing in, kind of fine tuning the design. We won't get into the real nuts and bolts details of how we're actually construct it, lighting, that kind of stuff, until kind of the next phase. Design development. So what we want to do is a couple things. We've got Doug Wecrd here with water technology. You've heard the voice, now he's in there.
That's right.
Even with the pool design and stuff we've done before, there's still a lot of decisions that need to be made on what you want the pool to be, both the recreational pool and the non-pool, competition non-pool. So Doug's got a presentation and a lot of different things to look at, a lot of decisions that still need to be made. And then also with the building design, we want to start looking at these spaces. Maybe we want to reconfigure these a little bit different, fine tune them. Now's the time to really start that discussion. What we want to change, if we've got something, maybe we're missing a space that we want to see in here. Doug was in our office earlier today, we were kind of going over a few things we may take a look at where the pool equipment space is. We might want to move that somewhere else. Just all those kind of things. That's what we're going to decide in the schematic design phase. And it's probably, this phase usually takes us about 4 to 6 weeks to kind of move through. So it'll probably be a couple of meetings with you. We'll present some stuff to you, get your feedback, and then set up another meeting in another few weeks where we actually modify the design based on the output of what we discussed today. So with that being said, I'm going to turn it over to Doug because this is about, we'll go through the pool stuff first. So get a handle on all that's encompassing with the pools, and then we'll talk about the other spaces after we're done with Doug.
Well, hello, everyone. It's great to be here. And congratulations on getting to this next stage of things. So we're all excited to be here. Does anybody, oftentimes when you guys have been working on this for such a long time, is there any pent-up questions you got to get off your chest so you can clear your mind to think about new things? I know a couple of you who were asking me some questions earlier today. Anything? Okay. Well,
Did you want me to repeat for the record?
sure. That would be fantastic.
Several years ago, when we had started doing our first designs for the pool, there was a concern that we couldn't design it for complete water safety instructor lessons because of the depth needed, the 10-foot depth needed in the pool. So could you explain again how that's no longer an issue?
So the important thing is, so when you do lifeguard training, WSI, basically you can certify in 2 different functions. One, well, for swimming pools. And so the important thing is you either do a conditional certification or you do an open certification. Conditional is based on whatever depth of pool that you would have. And so if you only have a 5-foot deep pool, the lifeguards that you certify can only lifeguard up to 5 feet of water depth. To do an open type certification is that you can, as long as you have 10 foot of water depth, you can train your lifeguards to anticipate deep water, and they'll be trained for all pool types. And, in terms of a Red Cross certification. So I don't know the exact geotechnical conditions of the soil, and whether there's rock and whether there's water and all those things, but the answer is we can design a pool to conditions, and we just got to make sure that that design meets the budgetary parameters as well.
Yeah, so we know we're going to be going down, we've got a floodplain. The slab, top slab is going to be above the floodplain, that criteria. But what we'll have to do is that whole structure, we're going to have to waterproof around it to keep the water coming in. And it's done all the time. There's a whole parking garages down in downtown Boise that are below the floodplain, are below the water level. And they just have to pump any water on it or build it, to make sure it's waterproof on the outside, so the water doesn't come in.
Never thought.
Yeah, so, do we know what our water level is? I'll have to look at the soils report for a long time.
But, so those are things that during this schematic design phase, we'll get a lot more into the details so that we can understand all that stuff, so that we can update you guys in terms of the conditions that are out there and how that affects the ultimate design that you guys are looking at. So just kind of going through this, basically the agenda today, we want to kind of do a little bit of review of where we've been, look at the concept, and then consider about what are the important things that, what are the priorities, because we want to make sure that we design it all, but if we have to make some tough decisions budgetarily, we want to make sure that we're making them based on your priorities. That make sense so far? And then, we'll look at some of the amenities that we want to include in the pool. And then, like Nate said, we can get into the really finite details and get to a high grade, but let's get the overall picture first, and then we can kind of come back and make sure we're getting into those details. Does that sound good to everybody? And then, of course, anytime we're talking, if you have a question, you want to talk about something, please stop us and let's talk about it. And so basically, you've seen this image before, but it's an important reminder of how today's aquatic programs really direct future healthy aquatic user experiences, because that's what we're here for, right? We want to have a healthy community, and we want to make sure that we have great community quality of life. And that's what this is a quality of life enhancement for Western Elmore County Recreation District and the entire community. So remember this when we did this exercise, and so this is what kind of helped us go through the program to really understand what's important to you guys in your in the people you represent. And so we saw that lap swimming is really important. We saw that competition swimming is important. Water aerobics, learn to swim programs, physical therapy, and open swim, having the ability to accomplish that. Making sure that we had the competition size pools, but it's kind of funny because number one was actually the lifestyle leisure pool. And the reason for that, I think, was probably the warmer water temperatures that would appeal to a broad group of users as well. And then wellness and therapy, and warm water programs were really important. And then looking at some of the features we might want to see, number one was a lazy river, number two was a zero depth entry, 3 was interactive water sprays, 4 and 5 activity areas, water walks, and different types of water slides. And so, again, just remembering how important temperature is, and that's one of the things that we've seen that really has inspired people to come to the pool more, is they're just not cold pools, they're warm pools, and so having both of those that appeal to both user groups, or all user groups, and making sure that we have the right water depth to do, to have great family interactions, to have learn to swim programs, making sure we adhere to WSI requirements. And then if we're going to do competition pool with competition starting platforms, that's where it gets to be really important to make sure we have the correct water depths, so you can have starting platforms at a minimum of 7 feet, and then to go to 10 feet to get WSI configurations is not that big of a deal. And then if you start getting into diving boards, it gets even deeper. And so here's kind of the layout, and we went over to the site and we kind of looking around it and seeing everything. So it's a beautiful site, and it's going to be a great beacon for your community. Looking you're going to be able to see this, I believe, from the interstate.
Yes.
And then being adjacent to the junior high and high schools, I mean, that's a beautiful site. And this was a configuration that, kind of, again, it's a beginning placeholder, right? I mean, we went through a conceptual design, we went through an idea, okay, these are the components that we want. We want a competition lap pool. We want a warm water lifestyle pool that has a zero depth entry, has deep enough water for warm water programming, some lap lanes, and lazy river. We want a water slide, and there was the desire to maybe also have a whirlpool spa, and to put that into it. And then the other thing is, maybe sometime in the future, or if we can get in this concept, having at least an outside sun deck, but maybe there'll be a splash pad out there to help celebrate when you have those great summer days to get outside. That sound familiar so far?
Excellent.
Okay, that's a good recap. And so, again, these are the spaces. They will invariably move around a little bit. And you guys want to say anything about that?
Yeah, I don't think, like I said, this is kind of a placeholder. We need to dive into some of the, for example, locker rooms. We've just got some locker rooms showing here. They're pretty big. We need to define how many lockers we need. How many we think we're going to have at a maximum time. Those are the kind of details that we need to get into, and we can start to fine tune the size of these things. Right now, we've got both lockers separated. As we start moving things around, is there a benefit to maybe bringing those closer together to kind of share some of the piping and everything, those particular shower areas? Those are the kind of things that we're going to kind of look at, kind of dive into more detail. We've got more multi-purpose rooms. We want to talk to you a little bit about what you envision, the types of activities you envision in those spaces, because I'm determining things like the type of flooring that we put in here and those kind of things. So there's a lot of that detail that's going to come through these meetings. So we'll do that. We'll get the pools first, and we'll kind of start talking about those.
You can tell Nate's he took off his architectural hat to put on his pool design hat, because he's talking about diving in all the time. which is great. So again, beautiful facility. These structures really, you're going to be able to see it from the interstate. It's going to make a really nice presence into the community, and then again, it brings in a lot of natural light. And then again, having that, potentially a splash pad on the south side, where the sun is, and really beckons for people to come outside and enjoy it. And again, we know that, and then having shade out there and all the things to really make sure that it's a year-round experience. So one of the things we like to look at is kind of, okay, we know that we want warm water, we want cool water, but what are some of the amenities we might want to think about in terms of the warm water? What are going to appeal to a lot of different users? And again, so these are just kind of a quick brush of what we see in a lot of facilities. These little geysers. Now, one thing you have to remember is when you're really little and you're kind of getting introduced to the water, how much fun do you think it is to have water dumped on your head? Not very much. That discourages a lot of, and so what you'll see is you'll see this in almost every pool that has a zero depth entry, because now children can go from a non-splash environment where they're sitting with their parents and just kind of chilling in the water to going over where there's a geyser. They can go over and touch it. They can go over and walk through it, but it's not dumping on their head. And so these are really important types of consideration. So geysers are one thing that are really important. Wall sprays, we can put those wall sprays in a lot of different areas. We can put them in lazy rivers. We can put them along the sides of the zero depth entries, so it creates this arch. Again, the kids can come over, they can put their hands in it, they can play, I call it London bridges, falling down, they can walk underneath it, and have fun with their friends and stuff like that. So these kind of sprays are a good thing to have for introductory sprays, but also kind of appealing to, if you put them in lazy rivers, if you're floating around or walking around, you can have those on during recreational periods. Now, if you put them in a lazy river like this, as I talked about, there's a lot of users that love lazy rivers for doing water walking. They don't want to get their hair wet. And so this is not one of those things that you'll have on when that user group, somebody that, if I don't want to get my hair work, I'm going to work, I want to get some exercise because it's a good program, those things will be off, and they don't have to run all the time. They're separate. Any likes or dislikes there? Like so far? Okay. The other things that we see in these types of, now I know that lifeguards are, in today's society, lifeguards are hard to get. Because oftentimes so we want to make sure in our design that we're keeping it very transparent so that the more obstructions we have in sight lines, the more lifeguards it takes to operate. And so you'll see some of these things, what we're doing here is putting in very easy to see around type features so that we can have the fun activities, the dumps and the different types of spray play features, but we're not having a big structure. Now we can look at structures, but we try to have transparency in that as well. And so these are the types of play structures that appeal to really young users. And again, we're not picking these today as components because we'll come back with. Right now, in our industry, it's trade show season, and we're introducing a lot of new fun things. I'm fortunate enough to get to speak at a lot of these things, and so I see a lot of this new stuff. And so there's some really cool things that are out there that we'll talk about next time. But again, one of the things I like to show is these little kind of participatory play features where kids get to play with each other. They're kind of directing where water is flowing. They're kind of putting a hand on some water here and it goes up over here. The cause and effect approach. But again, these types of play features are really, really fun. So you have to consider. The other thing that has a broad appeal, I call them massage spray arches. I might have mentioned this on one of our phone calls. I didn't really get these things. I had put these things in Europe and in Asia in pools because that's kind of commonplace, but it's not very commonplace here in the U.S. I really didn't get it until I was in Austria a couple of years ago, and there was these spray features like this. This one's in Italy, and there was just a bunch of kids around it. I was like, well, what is this all about? So anyway, I finally shooed the kids around it, and I sat underneath that thing, had a massage on my neck and my back, and it was like, oh my gosh, I get it. And so it's really appealing to both us older kids and younger kids that, it's a kind of a spray play feature. So I've been really trying to tell people about this to see, especially in warm water, how whether you do it in kind of more of a point source or kind of a fan shape, those are the features that really help you to turn on and off. They're not that expensive, but they really appeal to all the different user groups.
Is that something we could put on a splash pad versus in a pool, or is it better in a pool?
I would say this is better in a pool just because of its year-round effect, where the splash pad would be more seasonal, and you don't want to have everybody have to, geez, when do you get over your splash pad so I can give massages?
Do you know if physical therapists have ever commented on something like that for the massage effect?
I haven't ever heard a physical therapist talk about it, but what physical therapist doesn't have the conversation about how good massages are for people. I was doing a study last year on a project in Baltimore, Maryland, and they have like 14 pools. And one of the pools I was at, they had it was mainly for active aging adults, and they had this splash. They had this kind of shallow area that had some features. And there was one feature. It wasn't exactly like this. It was just kind of a feature that dumped water in a column on people. And it was so interesting to see that people in this class everybody was over 50 years old, they would sit on the side of the pool and take their turn to get underneath that feature, stand there and stretch for about, a minute or two and then let their friends come in. It's like, that was just an affirmation how important that is, but we hadn't really noticed it before. So I mean, that's one of the things I think we should at least consider, because it does have that broad range of people.
So on these massage sprays, is there a interactive user setup where it's not always on, but the user wants it, they just hit a button on it, kick it on, or is it something that's going always?
It could have that. It could have a switch that would turn it on and off. Oftentimes, we like to kind of see that be part of the pool office and their control sequences. Because the other thing in Lazy River is the speed of the Lazy River. That's something that, again, the pool operational staff should be able to control the speed of that within certain parameters. And again, one of the things that is important is the energy cost of starting or operating a pump, over a period of time versus the on-off period. And so there's kind of if you're going to use it every hour, it's better not to turn it on, turn it off, turn it on, turn it off, because it shortens the lifespan of the pump, but it also increases the energy, because every time it turns on, there's a little bit of a spike, even if you're using DFT drives or things like that. So again, that's something you should probably have in the pool controller's office, so they can turn those on and off. So here's some other things. In Lazy Rivers, we've been doing these water rapids where it's really kind of fun. We're kind of getting away from that a little bit. I'll tell you the reason why is because it takes a lot of energy to create this kind of an effect. There's a lot of horsepower that's required to pump the water up like that. And the other thing is that, we only use water, we don't use air in there, because it helps with the clarity of the water, so the lifeguards can see what's happening at the bottom of the pool. We're kind of getting away from it just because of the energy consideration, but there's other ways that we can provide that same type of an effect through maybe some aeration on the walls, or not aeration, but jets on the walls that are kind of aimed up to create that on the pump that you're already using. And then again, going to that whole point of transparency. Now, one of the things, we're showing this in traditional structures, but one of the things you can see in here is if we don't have a play structure, a big play structure that's taking up a lot of volume of space, we can actually maybe hang things from the ceilings. Now, on this type of a structure we're thinking about, that might be a little tricky. We would have to use some really light ones. But again, you can see by having these things hanging from the ceiling, you don't have obstruction by floors, which is real positive. One thing that we like to look at in the shallow the zero depth entries is how we have slides that appeal to really young users. And having these little tot slides that can have, mom or dad going down with the little kid. They go down a few times, and maybe they're riding in their lap at first, and they're holding hands. It's not too long before their brothers and sisters are racing each other down, and their friends. So again, if you're going to have a bigger water slide, this type of a thing provides that same type of feature for really young children. And then one of the things that we've seen a lot of different is, especially if we're having lap pools, this is a way to engage the lap pool for maybe recreational uses by putting in like water basketball, water volleyball, and that cooler water activities to be able to do some of the things we're doing, and putting up rope climbing, especially if we're having 10 feet of water depth, where we have a rope climb that goes into the pool. A lot of David Marsh, who's the Olympic swim coach, he was coaching out of in Charlottesville. He was he had rope climbing and all these fun activities, so that when the swimmers, as opposed to just swimming, they use other muscles, and again, it became a competitive thing. But having different types of water basketball, rope climbing, and stuff like that. Having underwater bench seating in the lazy rivers or around kind of have a place for people to sit down and socialize and engage in conversation. Some of these don't have jets. Some of them do have underwater jets, especially one of the considerations that you might think about is if for some reason budgetarily we can't get a whirlpool spa into the project, maybe what we do is put jets in one of these things, so that we have some hydrotherapy in that warmer water. It's a consideration down the road when we start honing in on the pricing. Here's another thing. We have in our design a 6-lane lap pool, and when the swimmers from the high school are possibly using that, or you're having a swimming meet, people still want to come to do laps. Now, in our design, as you recall, we have some lap lanes here, but we have 2 lap lanes, and we did shorten these lap lanes. It's only 60 foot in length, not the 75 foot like this. One of the things that we have done in other pools is put these tethering devices. They're kind of like a low-tech treadmill. And so you get a belt and you put it on, and the swimmers can swim, they can swim 1 million miles without ever having to turn the corner. And so it's a way to get more people into your pool to be able to, you can see, even competitive swimmers can use those things for using. So it's a way to keep everybody happy, because once you have this type of a facility, that client satisfaction is so important. Your water slides. One of the things that we look at water slides is try to make them very engaging, so that they're durable, easy to maintain, but also, because today's youth, how many people have kids here? All the children today grew up with doing this, right? And so they have to be engaged with something to keep their minds occupied. And so just having a slide, they might go down once or twice, and then it's like, okay, now what? And so what we've been doing in these water slides is putting friendly competition. I'll explain it. Another thing about these water slides that's kind of a little bit of a consideration is thinking about maybe putting that into a run out like this, or a deceleration lane, as opposed to going into a plunge pool. And the reason for that is, if you go into a plunge pool, and the design right now is kind of showing a nice plunge pool. The water slides at the apex of the ceiling height, and it's going, here's a set of stairs coming up. You go down the slide, you go into a plunge pool. Well, that's another pool. But the other thing is, when you have a plunge pool, because you have 3.5 foot of water depth there that's required for a water slide, you have to have 2 lifeguards for 1 rider to go down. And so with these runouts, now you have to have 1 lifeguard. You don't even have to have a lifeguard. That could be just an attendant at the top of the slide to dispatch the users going down. They go down this runout, and then they get out and go back up the stairs and then do it again. So, helping control operational expenses is important. So you can see there's lots of different water slides that we can do and how we can thematically put that. But this is showing an enclosed water slide that it starts out enclosed and it opens up, and here's one that's open and it goes to enclosed, and then here's one that's all open, and then here's some that are completely all enclosed. Different types of. This one's translucent structure. This one actually is an opaque structure, both translucent banding, and I'll show you why that happens. And then these are going into runouts. This is going into a plunge pool. But here you can see a 3-lane lap pool, and you can see how they've made that very multi-purpose. They have a basketball, they have water volleyball, and they actually have a crossing activity. But one of the things when you look at slides, when you have that translucent banding, you can do some really cool effects inside the slide. And so, this becomes, you can do more of a traditional approach. You can do a helix approach. You can do like different shapes. You can do a squiggle. There's lots of different things that will come into the game. deciding what we're going to do. But the important thing is looking at how we make that water slide, because they're expensive. If we're going to do it, we want to keep it as a very durable attraction and have great durability in terms of, its appeal. And so one of the things that we've been doing is a very simple thing to do is put a water slide timing system in. And so if you go down the slide one day, if Doug goes down the slide and gets 4.5 seconds, Dan, you can let him beat you down the slide? No. So you get this, it's a very...
You better bulk up.
Green grade game, right? And so it's one of those things that, it creates that every time you come to the facility, you can try to do your personal best time because it's posted, there's a timer that tells you what your time is. And it's not inexpensive component. It's probably about a $25,000 to $30,000 component. But when you put that in context of the cost of the slide, that's very, it's a very modest cost to keep it a durable attraction by what today's youth wants. So this is another type of an approach on longer slides. We've been doing these obstacle courses where, where they can push whatever they want to put down here in terms of, where the targets are going to come. So as they're sliding down, if they have to touch those targets as they go down the path, and when they get down to the bottom, they see how many of them that they touched, and they get their time. If they didn't touch a certain number, they don't get their time, and so it's like, well, it's a challenge, right? You got to do it again. So these are types of things to kind of, make a durable attraction. And this is mainly on a lot of the warm water side of things. And so that's one of the things that, if it's okay, I'm going to go quickly back to the beginning because I didn't plan well enough. But so when we look at this pool, we have right now we have our zero depth entry with some sort of amenities. That's right there. It's nice shallow water. It probably goes from 0 to 2 feet of water depth. And this particular design kind of can be isolated from the lifestyle pool, or it could be connected, because what we see oftentimes is that from 0 to 2 is real popular, but from 2 to 3.5 feet of water depth, what do you do in that water depth? There's not a lot of programs that occur. There's not a lot of activities that occur because it's too deep for really young children and it's too shallow for us adults. So what do you do? And so this is an example of where we've isolated that from 0 to 2 feet. And then we start in this pool and go from 3.5 feet down to whatever water depth that wants to be. And then this is always 3.5 feet of water depth. And so the other way to do that is to have a connecting ramp from 2 feet of water down to 3.5 feet of water. So now it becomes kind of it's not an ADA acceptable entry unless you put a lot of rails, but it becomes a gracious way to go down the ramp, for that, to get from 2 feet of water, from 0 down to 3.5 feet of water. So it's one of those considerations. Again, that's where when we start going through the final designs, we'll look at all these different options and see what works price-wise, to make sure that in your budget that we get as many of the features and components that you want in the budget that you have.
Nice.
Does that make sense so far?
Makes a lot of sense.
And so just kind of this pool, when we look at this pool, this area from 0 to 2 feet is an area for fun. It's water introduction. You could do some learn to swim programs at 2 feet of water depth for really that first level of water instruction, but it's really water initiation. But when you get into 3.5 feet, that's where you start. 3.5 to 4.5 feet of water depth. That's where you get into the water exercise, water aerobics, because everybody wants to really exercise in the water if you're going to do water aerobics at about mid-chest level. And so anybody that's different heights, that's why I say from 3.5 feet down to 4.5 feet, everybody can get in the same class and be about mid-height depending on the slope of the floor. That makes sense so far. And then so, yes, please.
You said ADA approval on the, with the ratings. Now, if there was a therapy pool and we worked with the physical therapist in the hospital,
Yes.
we would need those,
ADA accessibility.
yeah.
Now there's a couple different ways. There's a gracious entry that most people would use, and then there's the ADA accessibility where you actually walk down with rails and things of that nature. You're going to have an accessible access for ADA. It's whether or not it's going to be a ramp, or it's going to be a lift, or it's going to be a platform, or something like that. And so I'll get into some of those details in a little bit. But again, if we're working with physical therapists, we want to get them involved in this decision process so that they can weigh in on it. But again, if you're going from 0 to 3.5 feet, which is 42 inches of water, right? And you want to get on as fast as you want, you can go to a 1 to 12 slope. This is just standard architectural detailing. But every 12 feet of run, you have to have a platform. If you don't want to do that, so now you have 12 feet, it's a platform, 12 feet, or so that becomes a long ramp. Or you can go to 1 to 20 slope, and so at 1 to 20 to get down 42 inches, you have one heck of a lot of pool space that's being taken up by a ramp. So that's why we'll look at different options for that. That's where is if we just have a 1 to 12 slope, we go a nice accessible entry, and then have a ramp that connects to 3.5 feet of water. We can go 1 to 12 without following all the ADA guidelines, so it doesn't meet those guidelines, but it's a gracious way to get into the pool that most users would appreciate, but it doesn't meet ADA standards. That
Yes.
it's a tough distinction to make, but at the end of the day, both pools will meet ADA access requirements. And that's really important.
Thank you.
Are these platforms to ADA, do they fold up out of the way? All the ones I've seen are this, I call it monstrosity built on the side of the pool, that it's more of a hazard for the regular user. Every day, somebody having access to the pool, this thing's in the way.
Yes.
Do they make a version that's not in the way, when it's not in use?
They used to, but ADA came back and said, you need to have this be attached to the pool so that the users can always have access to it.
Well, it's still attached, but not a, where it like folds open or something.
Let me go to that section.
Sorry.
This
Would you like to work in it?
Really portable, just something where the pad folds up out of the way, so it's not this 4x4 pool.
It's gone.
It's in the way. Somebody's doing laps or something like that. Cuts out a lane or two that they can't use because this thing's in the corner, or when you do swim lessons or something like that, where just the pad folds, so people can swim around without having to swim 6 feet into the pool just to go.
So if they had a handrail, would that take the place of the platforms?
So here's exactly what we're talking about. So here's a ramp that comes into the pool. And you can see going from the deck level down to these are where the stairs are. So it's never into the lane, but you can see how much space in a pool that takes up. So what are the options? That's one good option. One of the things that we hear from a lot of operators is it's really nice for people to have arthritis to go down that ramp because it's real convenient, but it's also a place where kids kind of hide and play, and so it's a bittersweet kind of an approach. So here's another, and this is kind of the pool monstrosity thing you're talking about, Lee, and the fact that you have to have this chair, it's sitting next to the pool. The good news is it's kind of gotten better because now it's battery powered.
That's a lot smaller than the ones I've seen.
Yeah, because there's other options that, you know, are like this, that are water powered. Now you've got this hose that connects to a hose bib. Typically, we try to put that right underneath it, but it's still, it's kind of an obstruction into the pool, and kids are playing on it. Here's another type of an approach. This is kind of more of a mobile approach. You actually would put that next to the pool edge and have this chair that swings around and gets into it. That's another approach, is a very stable approach. These are a lot more easy to move, and so that you can see it's battery powered as well, so it's real easy to use. And then
That's the one that
yeah. Another one is this, where it takes up about a 3 foot by 3 foot area, you know, and again, it's there. This is in place of a ramp, and so it takes up a lot smaller footprint than the ramp does, but it still occupies a footprint. But you can see that this is outside the swimming lane.
Yeah, see, that looks like it was designed around. I'm used to seeing the rectangle pool and then some of the sidewall somewhere, they got one of those full top.
Yeah, so that's an afterthought, right?
Yeah.
And so this kind of shows a nice gracious set of steps into the pool. You would have, this one is showing the ADA acceptable alternate route, where you have no greater than 30 inches wide rail, and then more of a gracious route that has a broader rail. And then this would be, the newer, this is an older one, but the newer ones actually look similar to this, but they actually have a gate that you can open and close, as opposed to this open type of that.
So this was, that one was only maybe that bad if it was built in and we designed it to have a,
Yes.
kind of, that's the thing when it's sticking out of the pool, you get.
So
So-
how is that one operated?
So there's, and again, unfortunately, this was a construction photo. So the operation is right here. So, but it's, you remote mount it over here. So you push the button, it goes down, push the button, it goes back up. But I helped them kind of understand this is better than a ramp. But I didn't like how long it took to get people down. It took 90 seconds for people to go from this level down to the floor. Well, you know, it's real stable, but I don't want to celebrate my next birthday on that thing. In 90 seconds seems like it. And so it's just coming back on the market now. They've redesigned it, so it's a 30-second ride, which I think is much more, you know, that's more like all of these things are about a 30-second ride from the time you get into it to the time it gets you down into the water. So,
Could we do a lift like that on the warm water pool and then one of these on the cold water? I don't know how many seniors are going to be getting into the cold water lap pool.
right. Yeah, absolutely. That's where we would use this type of, you know, maybe of a more mobile approach on the cool water lap pool. And but for greater accessibility, that type of an approach on the warm water.
So obviously this one, you have to have your chair, you don't transfer, or a chair that's waterproof,
Or a chair that attaches to the rail.
or a chair that's attached to the rail.
Yeah.
What kind of implement do you put? You put a chair that's attached to the rail on this one then?
It could, no. We're working on, with the company that manufactures this, we're working on changing the ADA guidelines so that, because where's the best place to transfer onto a waterproof chair? Because you're not going to use your wheelchair that you are cruising around town in, right? The best place to have a waterproof chair and transfer onto that is the changing room. Yeah. And so what we're working with the ADA committee, and that's not an easy task. But working on them to say, okay, let's have a transfer onto a waterproof wheelchair in the locker rooms. You know, if a user's coming out to get on this, they can wheel onto that, so you don't have to have a chair that's an obstruction for people that don't need it, and then lower it. So it's, as long as you have a waterproof wheelchair or multiples, then we're trying to get them to say that's an ADA accessible route. Because the other way to do that, if you have arthritis, you just don't want to walk down the steps, it's real simple. You just walk out there, push a button, and it lowers. You don't have to have a chair or anything like that.
So we don't have to have a staff member mess with that at all,
No.
outside of maybe assisting in transfer.
Now when you use something like that,
Yeah, yes.
you know, it's, yeah, people that get used to it could possibly transfer themselves. From a customer service perspective, I would say you'd like to have a staff. You know, the ADA is written so that you're supposed to be able to just do it yourself. That's why they kind of changed the regulation that you have to keep this next to the pool so you don't have to ask somebody. But, you know, if I was an operator and I saw somebody that needed to transfer over there, I'd make sure I was over there helping them to make sure there's not some sort of spillage one way or the other.
But then wouldn't you have to have training on how to help them transfer or?
Absolutely.
Yes. And to me, this would have a serious weight requirement.
Yeah, so that's been the challenge with these types of approaches is the inexpensive ones have 250 pounds. And you think, well, 250, that's a lot. No, you know, there's a lot of people that are, you know, that can benefit from using the water that weigh over 250 pounds. And so now kind of the standard that we try to apply is 400 pounds. You know, and that fits, you know, probably 98% of the people that would use the pool. But again, you're right. You have to have anything you're doing with the pool, you have to be trained. You know, whether it's the operation, whether it's the transfer, whether it's the water chemistry, whether it's the water slide, all of those things take training to make sure that your guests have a good user experience. So any questions on, it's these are the types of decisions that we have to make. This has kind of been introductory discussion about these things so that we can, because what we want to do at the end of the day, we want to look at our concepts and say, okay, where do we want each one of these pools? What are the components that we want in these pools? And what are the kind of amenities that we want to put in these pools, at least in the first round of schematic design documents. Is that correct, gentlemen?
I have a quick question. So if you have you called it the gracious way to enter with the cut around, as you called it on the plan.
Right.
So you wouldn't put any grab bars on the sides of that. You just, for the cut off piece you're talking about.
That's a great question.
So you said that that's not ADA. So would you have to put in a lift or something else to get into
Yes.
the lower ones? So in addition to the gracious way to get down there, you would need for instance, a ADA
Accessible.
lift
Yeah.
down as well.
So let's talk, that's a great component. So let's talk about that. So if we have this design where we have 0 to 2, if we wanted to make that ADA accessible, now you have to have a double set of rails that would go all the way through here. Takes up a lot of usable space. And then to use that, you'd have that going from 0 to 2, and then you'd have whatever it takes to get a ramp down into this 3.5 feet of water depth with rails all the way down. So if you were a user, you were down here, you'd have to go all the way around and come down and get into here. You have all those rails. Whereas with a gracious style design, you probably wouldn't have any rails up here. Maybe you'd put a rail on the side, but it'll be a single rail, not a double rail. And then if you wrap it around here, then yes, then you would put rails going down from 2 feet of water depth down to 3.5 feet of water depth. It's a much more transparent and, but again, if you have somebody that has severe disabilities that, you know, needs those rails, that's not probably the approach they're going to be using. But if you had a wheelchair, they could easily go down that ramp and go down to 0 to 2, go down the ramp. But that's one of the things I'd like to point out. If anybody is wheelchair bound, it is difficult coming out of the water in a wheelchair unless you have some assistance. You have to have great upper body strength. And so that's where whether you use a lift like this or like that.
Sounds like that lift is the
That
most
just seems more
compact.
practical.
So it's very practical.
And what I was thinking of with applying for grants, and the senior center board has said that there are lots of grants, that everything has to be ADA.
Yeah. Well, and we would not be able to get a building
Right.
permit if everything from the parking lot through the dressing room into the, out of the pool was not ADA accessible. Because and then even if we did get a building permit, then we'd get sued if it wasn't.
Right.
And so we're all very, I mean, it's really about making sure we get a great user experience, but there's penalties if we don't. So does that kind of go through that topic that everybody's? What's that?
So they did make you jump ahead, I apologize.
Oh, no, that's great. That's exactly what we want to do.
Question?
So let's go to this for a second. Let's go to this plan view on a bigger scale. So one of the things that, just kind of position, this is a good time to kind of talk about adjacencies or things of that nature. So, we have our zero depth entry. The important thing about zero depth entry that in this concept, it's close to the locker rooms. That's a really important thing because kids get excited, they see the pool, and we want to have sure that mom and dad can take, make sure they're not getting into deep water. We don't want the deepest water in the pool right next to the locker rooms because, kids fall in and there's lifeguards have to go and grab them, right? And so zero depth is good there. The other thing that's really important is, having this kind of, I believe north is to the left side of the page. And so on the right-hand side is to the south. The south is where the sun is, right? So having a nice outside sun deck that invites people out. And whether or not initially that has a splash pad or something that there's a splash pad in the future, that's an important component. And so the other thing, when you look at this kind of a lap pool, I would strongly suggest that there's stairs that come into it because you will do a lot of cool water programs in that. And so you want to have good spectator seating for that pool, and you want to have the starting area have a minimum of 7 foot of water depth, and most likely we'd like to see 10 feet of water depth so that we can do full comprehensive WSI training in this 6-lane pool.
So where would you put the stairs in that?
So in this design, you would have the deep water down here, and your stairs would be down at this water depth. Now, typically in competition pools, you can have 3'6" of water depth in the shallow end of the pool. However, there's been kind of a movement towards getting a little deeper, for especially, how many people have competitive swimmers in their families? A lot of those competitive swimmers are pretty big people, right? And so to do a flip turn in 3'6" of water, you can, but it's not
Blessed.
It's not blessed. And so the movement is towards at least going to 4 foot of water depth, and you get a lot better clearance. But you don't sacrifice the ability to do water exercise or other types of shallow water activities in that pool. So that pool would go from, I would suggest 4 feet of water to 5 feet of water depth. Then there'd be a break, and then you have a deeper portion that would be 10 feet, transition back up to 5 feet. Does that make sense?
Also, deep parking center.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. So in this configuration, this would be a 10-foot deep area. There'd be a line across here where it would transition from 10 feet at a 1 to 3 slope up to 5 feet. So 1 to 3 and 5 feet is 1 to 3 is 15 feet, right? So if you had this at 20 feet, and you come up here 15 feet, you've now consumed 35 feet of a 75-foot long pool. So you have 40 feet available for shallow water in here from 5 feet to 4 feet. And then you would then have a set of stairs typically on this side of the pool.
Now they wanted it to start though, the starting blocks on the opposite side.
They wanted the starting platforms on here.
No, where they're at over,
So the depth,
depth is opposite.
that's.
Yeah,
what
color,
it's on.
color.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so right here, the start.
Starting in the deep end?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah, you have to start.
Because they're diving off
Okay,
before this
I got you.
16 inches off the ground, right?
Okay.
30 inches.
What's there?
Colors missing.
Yeah, that's what I was just,
The darker
Oh,
color
darker
as
color.
soon as the
Yeah.
so I was like,
I see what you mean.
Because that's what it is on the left pool, is the deeper,
Yeah.
or the warm water pool,
Well,
deeper.
yeah. So it's a graphic representation, but again, this would be the deep side, and this would be the shallow one.
makes sense.
And typically you want to have your deeper water away from the entrances of the locker rooms.
The little nubbin at the top of it, is that the stairs?
That could represent a set of stairs. It wasn't, these are not designs, these are placeholders for the ideas.
I'm sorry, Mr. Tibbetts isn't here. Didn't he say something about you can't have stairs in a competition pool? And I thought that was really odd.
That's not true.
And, okay,
I mean,
I'm glad it's
that-
not true.
yeah,
because that was
that-
odd.
We put steps in competition pools all the time.
Okay.
There are steps and stairs in the base pool, and that is a competition pool.
It is, okay.
In fact, there's a set of steps and stairs on each side.
But I like Lee's idea of not having as the recessed platform left in this cool water pool, but having a lift. That makes a lot more sense, because you're absolutely right. People that use this cooler water pool, because that water temperature is typically going to be somewhere, like when they have a big meet, they're going to want to lower it to 79 degrees, but typically every day it's going to be like 81 degrees. Well, 81 degrees doesn't seem like it's that cold, but when you're in the water for a while, unless you're really moving,
It's cool.
it's cool, yeah. And so that's why this type of a pool doesn't, that temperature of a pool doesn't appeal to, unless you're really an active seniors program or a real high dynamic activity water aerobics class. That temperature is not that appealing for it. And so that's where this water over here, operating at somewhere between 86 degrees to 88 degrees, that's a lot more pleasurable and desirable for the young users and as older users. Does that make sense? So the other thing that when you look at this pool, we talked about this in LCA's office, is the fact that this pool basically has the gutter line, the main drain line that's bringing water back to the filtration system. We have our filtration system, sanitation system, then that returns the water back to that pool. So you fundamentally have 3 or 4 lines that are coming out of this pool. Whereas when you start thinking about this pool, you're going to have lines, that are from the main drains, the gutters, the amenities, the returns, and so there's the jets for all of the lazy river, and so it's not uncommon to have 10 lines coming from that pool. The other thing, when you have a whirlpool, the other thing is that we see oftentimes there's the circulation line for the pump, filter, heater, and sanitation system, so there's 4 lines there, and then there's the jet pumps and stuff like that, so there's typically in a whirlpool you have 6 to 8 lines coming back. One of the things to help control cost is oftentimes it's best to keep your mechanical equipment closer to this grouping of activities than it is to this activity, just because you don't have all those lights running all that distance. And so that's one of the things that I know we're gonna work out.
So we're gonna look at that, how can we move that to the side of the building?
But it's really nice that if we do have a spray ground, again, that's another thing that's important to try to keep that part of possibly that same mechanical room. As opposed, the other thing is, we talked about this, is what about if we had 2 mechanical rooms? Well, you have to still run utilities, and so your cost goes up by splitting those mechanical rooms. So having the ability to keep one pool mechanical room is more appealing. But we'll kind of walk through the options and look at all the different adjacencies.
Are your mechanical rooms predominantly underground?
So that's a good question. So what has to be or what's best to be underground are the pumps. Because then you can go to centrifugal pumps as opposed to self-primers, which are more efficient. But the other things can be above ground. You know, like the filters, the heating devices, the sanitation devices. And then the other thing that's really important is you want to have access to that equipment on a ground level as opposed to having recessed in the ground. Now, in some regions of the world, they always put their pool mechanical equipment below the ground so they can use that space for something else. But what that means is that outside you have to have an area way so you can get equipment in and out of there. So I mean, those are things that when we start looking at all the different options, look at how it affects the price, of the budget, those are things we'll look at. So again, the other thing that we talked about is this water slide. Now, what we typically will do is, I guess, does anybody have a direction that they want to give us that we have to have a plunge pool, or does the idea of the runouts make sense?
Personally, I like the idea of a runout because that'll cut down, $100,000 a year of operating costs. You don't have to staff that by forever.
Yeah, it'll be less than 100,000, but it's still.
Well, it's 2 people.
Yeah.
Then you go down
It's
to
become a lifeguard.
Well, no, I mean, you gotta pay 30-something thousand a year.
No,
I
yeah.
give you 3 people
Yeah.
to rotate staffing,
I'm just kidding.
staff during the week. But that would cut down our operating costs if you don't have to have the personnel.
Yeah. And that's absolutely right, because we can control operational expense, that's a bonus, right? And it doesn't really affect the user out. And the other thing is,
You negate that splash pool.
yeah. And so we actually use water from this pool to circulate through the water slide, so you're not having to put it into the filtration system.
So is there any advantage to using a splash pool?
The only advantage using a splash pool is that some people say, well, I'm going to do learn to swim programs in that water depth of 3.5 feet of water, so I can multi-purpose it. Well, you have all of this space at 3.5 feet, so I don't think that's a hugely logical approach. We're seeing, I would say, over 60% of the designs we're doing do not have plunge pools. Where it makes a lot of sense is when you have these water parks that have these huge rafts that are coming down, and you need to be able to contain the splash.
Yeah, I think
Right.
And then we can also keep the stairs and runouts on that wall, kind of a way to have it spiral up high somewhere where you're not in your visibility of your lifeguard.
Right.
And then we can even make our warm water pool, like drop the whirlpool, put the whirlpool in your lazy river, like you got a couple pictures of. I guess have 2 pools worth of piping. We don't have to worry about it, and it gives us a little more space.
And one thing we've tested, we're doing this out in a project in Washington D.C. that we're actually, if we change the lazy river a little bit, where you could actually have kind of like a little area, but what that one does, We're actually putting the jets in, we're putting a heater on the jets. And so now you can, it's kind of like in a cold room taking a hot shower, where you're spraying hot water out of the jets, and so it feels warmer on you, so you think you're in a hot water. You can't leave them on all day because it'll heat up the rest of the pool. But it's one of those things that we're doing as a value engineering effort because it saves space.
Now, would that be user control? Like, I want, like different stations, I want more water. They control that, or is that still something that's controlled in the pool?
It is controlled, so that would be when they want the jets on, they would hit a button, and that would turn the jets on, and the jets would stay on for 5 minutes and then turn off. And so,
And they can select whether they want heat or no heat.
no, they turn the jets on, they're going to get heat. They're going to get heat,
Can't have, the more option we give them like that, the more the cost goes.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's
Already got that figured out.
and so is that a direction we'd like to look at options, look at runouts as opposed to a plunge pool?
Yes.
And we'll look at maybe doing some sort of a so one of the advantages of this lazy river, it's very efficient for lifeguarding, because one lifeguard can see all the way down both sides of it, right? If you position a lifeguard right here, you can see what's going on all the way around you. Whereas if you start getting into a lot of different directions, amoeboid shape, then it becomes more difficult to see that. So that's one of the things that we looked at this as a placeholder, is to be able to provide easy, transparent design. Does that make sense, everybody? Okay.
I assume there's some formula or some calculation that you do for the slope on the slide and how high the slide is going to be. I think we have, I can't remember the clearance on this. I think we're
Pretty high.
pretty high, 40 feet was the highest. So maybe we're at 35 to where that needs to be. I don't know how many times you're talking.
So the important thing is, again, these were just placeholders. The important thing is you want to change, when you're sliding down, you want to change direction. That gives you a more thrilling ride than just going down the corkscrew. And so the other thing is the sweet spot on a slide in terms of purchasing a slide is around 25 to 30 feet. When you get above 30 feet, the structure becomes bigger, So just to put it in perspective, a water slide, a single water slide with a timing system on it, with concrete towers for low maintenance and things like that nature, 25 to 30 foot tall tower, single flume would be somewhere in the neighborhood of probably $275,000 to $325,000. The second you go to 35 feet, you're easily at $500,000. And so that's where that 25 to 30 foot kind of is a really good value. Above that makes it.
So have you, in your slides, have you got a picture of that?
Yeah.
A 30-footer?
Yep.
And then have you got anything higher than that?
I don't think we want anything higher.
I'm just curious.
Yeah, I might.
So
What I like is for you folks to get a concept. This ceiling in here is between 14 and 20 feet. Okay? How much higher than that do you want your water slide to go? 20 feet, in my mind, for our community is more than adequate, especially if we're going to do some direction changing there to make it exciting. What's the fall rate that we have to consider on this slide? Is it?
So, that's all kind of carried, the slide manufacturers, we actually have templates from all the slide manufacturers we put in for just kind of placeholders. But then once we get, because there's safety zones, there's the accelerators, there's the slow downs, all those types of things. So we don't really get too much into the geometry of the slides, but what we want to do is get it to the right place where it's not impacting because the other thing is when you start getting low, you can't walk underneath it, how it interfaces with the decks. We design the slide, and then they come back and design the slide path to meet the parameters that we designed for. But again, somebody that designs slides, they tell you all that stuff in 40 to years, if I haven't done that.
But you've got an example in that picture of a 30-foot?
Yeah, okay, yes, I'm sorry, let me go.
What's a 30-footer look like?
So this particular slide is a 30-foot tall tower. You know, so again, the bottom of this is 30 feet, and you want to have at least 10 feet above that. So anybody that thinks they're Tarzan in the community doesn't go climbing out over here and think they're going to jump into the pool. Now, one thing I want to show you about this slide is kind of unique in the fact that these are called inverted. This is called inverted columns. We can't do this. See these columns attached to the roof.
Oh, wow.
Sprung structure.
Yeah, we can't do that. We can't do that with a sprung structure. So what we basically have, we're going to have these types of things coming up from the floor. So it takes, but again, you can see in this area right here, we have a rail where you're not going to be going underneath that slide. And so, but up here, even though we have these columns coming down, we can still circulate around that.
Is that a run out that I see there?
Yeah, this is a run out that goes down here, and so it's this particular one was designed so that on this space, we actually have buried piping. This actually became a water splash pad indoors afterwards, after they opened up and his master plan to be able to do that. So, because there's a space there that, provided that opportunity. So let's talk about other slides. So this particular slide right here is somewhere in the neighborhood of 22 feet in height.
So it could come out, instead of just what we show on the plan there, it could come out and wind around and go over other pools and come
Yes,
back.
absolutely.
Instead of just, because right now it's not really going over.
Yeah. And by engaging that in other, wherever we have different wing walls and things like that, it makes it a lot more exciting. And that's where people think about, well, maybe we should have a transparent place, or different types of things, or different water features. So again, you can hold it really tight like this. You can see this one changes direction quite a few times, and this one, has longer runs, a little faster accelerators, but it engages more pools. So this one is kind of more of a tighter footprint. This is a 30-foot tall tower. This one actually has a spiral staircase. Spiral staircases take up less space. So again, you can see a spiral staircase. This is more of a I'll say this is about a 25-foot tall tower. And again, this is more of a 20-foot tall tower. I know that for sure. 20-foot tall tower, and it comes around, it has two loops. This has those translucent bands inside.
So our structure is 40 feet high, correct? Interior space?
Well, to the very peak.
From the peak. Where we've got at least the placeholder on the plans is towards the center.
It's the higher area.
I think we line up something, if we want, figure out what the cost for that, 27-foot or whatever, it could be, or 10-foot, so we don't have Tarzan. Because I see my voice doing that.
Yeah. Unanticipated monkey bars.
Oh, yeah. If we, that might be some good starting point. Say, hey, we drop it another 3 feet, it cuts off $20,000, whatever it is.
And those are the types of things that, again, water slides are another one of those types of amenities that are pretty easily phased, or naming rights. There's, maybe it wants to be the Doug Meyer specialty slide,
So then I've got to come out of retirement completely.
Well, you want to be the fastest one down, right?
I probably would never go on it.
So, say we plan it out for as water slides, because now, in theory, we're not going to have another pool we have to worry about. And can we pre-plan everything to have the piping set up for this, know what kind of pool we're going to want, or slide do this pool.
Yes.
What's the odds, say it takes us 3 years to get enough money for a slide, what's the odds this slide's going to expire or get more expensive?
Well, the odds that it's gonna get more expensive are real high. But they will still make this thing slide down. I'm doing a project now in Tempe, Arizona, where the slide's 20 years old. They master planned for it. They finally raised the money to do it, and they're putting the same slide in that they had done 20 years ago.
Like the footing's not going to change.
Right. The same, I mean, that's why it's really important to deal with a slide manufacturer that has the financial fortitude to stay around. Because there's been a lot, like any other companies, there's been a lot of changes where the 4 big slide manufacturers, they've been around since the beginning of time.
I thought the slide was part of the budget.
It is.
It is right now, but we need to, if we don't have it, we need to say we're short $300,000.
And you have to do,
We can put the infrastructure, that's what he's
That's
asking.
what I'm saying, if we plan it, and let's say we break
Put
ground.
the infrastructure in place and then buy the slide later and put it in.
Yeah.
So like we're still fundraising, we're still going, we said that.
so here's another approach, again, climbing walls. So this is something you can put in the deep water, the pools, that's where 10 feet you can do. You wouldn't be able to do this tall one, but you can do probably up to this level here, 4 panel, not 5, to get into that. It's one of those things that's fun to do, it's really engaging. You can also put timing systems on it. But again, it's one person type of an approach. This was a different way to accomplish that. You can see the slide tower is going up here, and so we had the deep water next to that. We actually put a climbing wall on the face of the pool, where you can have a climbing wall here, and then on the slide tower, at these different levels, you can actually have diving platforms into the pool. Now, this pool had to be at diving depth, to accomplish that. But you can just kind of see this slide tower goes up, and again, this is I want to say a 28-foot tall.
So to have a climbing wall, we're already 11.6, right? For one of the slides, that's the having percent. For climbing walls, we're 11.6 already, so that also handles a 1-foot springboard, right?
Yes.
So,
So again, that's where, to do a climbing wall, I mean, right now, we're talking about 10 feet of water depth without a springboard. If we're going to do a diving board, we need to be 11.6.
right? But with something like that, then we lose our starting blocks. For the cold water pool, we lose the starting blocks.
No, they would actually go on, this pool actually has starting platforms over here. This particular pool doesn't have starting.
Well, that's what I meant, the upper one, if we made it,
Yeah,
part of the stairs and all that, we would lose the ability to do competition.
yeah, absolutely.
Or could you put it on the lap lanes of the warm water side?
Then we have 2 pools that are
Like
10 feet plus.
Yeah, that's right, 10 feet.
Yeah, so on this particular pool, if you wanted to put a climbing wall, I would suggest putting a climbing wall over here. And that engages this pool in recreational activities. Now, they're removable, but they're not easily removable. It's not like picking up your briefcase or backpack or purse and moving it. There's some effort to take that down and reinstall it.
Well, if we put that on so that'd be the west side of the building, on the left, the cold water pool.
Cool.
So if we put it on that corner, it wouldn't interfere with competition at all. And it wouldn't hurt our visibility because they wouldn't be behind us walking back.
Right.
Or walking back.
And they actually have transparent ones of these things. I thought that was a great idea, but then there were reports of, every community has people that are less desirable, looking at people climbing up the climbing wall. So I never thought of that, but now that I have, I recommend opaque panels, not clear panels.
Now, you have to have a higher depth for diving. Do you have to have a higher depth for climbing wall?
At 10 feet, you could probably do a 4 panel up to here. If you only had 7 feet, you probably only do a 3-panel. And so the answer is yes, you do need, the higher you go, the more water you need. And so, and then the other thing, if you have a diving board, you have to think about ceiling clearances, which I think this particular facility would have a serious.
So on your regular competition lap pool, you, maybe I missed this, is the deeper part in the middle?
No.
Oh, okay.
So,
One end.
It's on the end where they go in,
yes,
right? So that would be where you want your climbing.
yes. So this area to be, again, whether you have, is a diving board in our future?
No.
Okay, I thought that from my recollection, we weren't really thinking about a diving board. So in this, to be able to have, that safe diving area, we would have a 10-foot area here. That would then, and then after 20 feet, the water would start to transition from 10 feet of water depth up to 5 feet. And that run of the slope would be 15 feet. So we'd have 35 feet of this, well, nearly half of it, that would be in deep water. And we'd have 40 feet from 4 foot to 5 foot. And then that's a really nice serviceable pool. It's great for swimming competitions. I know when we start talking to the swim coach is probably going to want to allow me for a diving pool. Because in high school competitions, I'm just telling you, that in high school competitions, when they have a diving team, you get points for having a diving team. If you don't have a diving board, you forfeit those points.
So you need to go to 11.6.
11.6 for 1 meter diving.
What's the cost difference between 10-foot and 11.6 pool?
So if you factor in the boards, I would, you've probably heard me say this before, guessing is just as accurate as lying. But I would guess that it's probably somewhere in the neighborhood of $30,000 to $40,000 difference. We start to factor in the boards.
They're lucky you're gonna be a swimming.
So again, here's a different way to do climbing walls. Having 2 climbing walls so people can compete up against each other, in fall zones and stuff of that nature. I think that this is a better approach, just because if you really want to compete, do a timing system, not because from this facilities where we've done that's a lifeguarding nightmare. Making sure that they're not going to try to slap hands as they're falling off together.
So on the deep end of the pool, because the climbing wall would take up so much of the space of one of the lanes, would you jut out one of the lanes for a climbing wall?
It doesn't affect the lanes at all, it's on the side of the pool.
Yeah, so here,
But it looks like it comes into the water.
that's a good question. Nowadays, because of the way this gutter was designed, this is called a semi-recessed gutter. This thing actually jets into the water. What we would typically do today is a deck level gutter system, and so this would be right at the edge of the wall. You have a buffer lane anyway of 1 foot wide right there, so it wouldn't affect. You wouldn't have to put a little alcove into that, and so you don't. So your lane line would actually be 1 foot. You wouldn't have that, so that wouldn't affect it.
Okay.
That's a good question.
But then again, this is something we can add later, an added copy, say, okay, we prep for it with anchors or whatever we need in the ground, and then we put it on the board, hey, climbing walls will cost us $20,000 or whatever, it's fine, it costs us this much.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of those things that
Penny drops.
It's one of those opportunities to provide future fundraising that you can add that as long as you kind of plan for it, because the next structurally accounted for. So again, today's youth, it's friendly competition, it's all sorts of, having timing systems, here's a racing slide, but having water basketball, the water basketball kind of breezed over this, is one of the things that you can put in the competition pool, but you can also put it in the lane lines over here. So, those things are movable from one pool to the other. So you buy maybe two of these backboards and stanchions, maybe put in 4 to 6 anchors, so you can move it around to where it needs to be for the future. Again, innovation is all about, the only reason to innovate is why? To increase participation. So we want to make sure that we're doing everything we can to get as many people in the community involved in the pool, right? Having fun and becoming involved. And so those things, take on different forms, right? So, again, one of the things we're seeing is there's a lot of people that could benefit from the pool, but why don't they come? Fear of swimming suits, right? And because there's a lot of people out there that, their therapists have said, you should come to the pool and work out and stretch and become more mobile. But, well, I haven't been in a swimming suit since I was 16 years old. I didn't even have one. And so there's a little bit of resistance. So those types of people, it's good to introduce them to the pool, is get into like water yoga programs where they actually do it on paddle boards, where they're in their gym shorts and t-shirts, and then they start to see how much fun it is, and they'll get into water exercise programs. The other thing for kids that are sitting on the couch doing Game Boy or PlayStation or whatever those things are, getting them into friendly competition to make it better for them. Their friends are there, they're engaged, and so having different things, whether it's underwater hockey, having these paddle boards, having a water polo on surfboards, or doing, maybe this is only Wisconsin, log rolling. Or does everybody know what slack line is? Have you seen those things? It's real popular these days for, you put a narrow band you put between 2 trees, and you have to, like a tightrope walking on the grass. We're doing it across the room now.
Now, those cages for the water polo, those can be portable so they can be taken out for a competition,
Yes.
a swimming competition, and you just put it in the water polo.
Yes. This is a competition pool, and basically you can see we've got floating courses, that may define the course for an official course. Our pool's not big enough to do an official water polo course.
No, they can just practice.
Yes, they can practice, and you can get inflatable goals, pretty simple goals to do if you're going to do it in this kind of a fashion where you're just bringing those in for fun. So again, the other thing is inflatables are fun, to put in, but the downside is they're kind of a pain to put in and out because you have to inflate them and store them and stuff like that. But again, it increases participation. So one of the things we think about is the pool is operational most of the time, and I know this is more of a conversation in recreation centers where there's fitness that are looking down into the pool, but having things that, the lights be colored, the features that are spraying, putting it in so it becomes a fun place, especially if you're going to have a meeting room in the pool. Maybe nobody's using the pool, maybe they are, but doing things like this to kind of create an atmosphere inside the pool is a real fun type of a thing. Here's another thing we're seeing with water slides, putting in LED screens in water slides. This is a slide that you can see you're sliding down the slide, and all of a sudden here's your friendly fish at the end of the slide. And then as you get closer, your friend opens his mouth and you think that you're going to go into the mouth, but you either go down underneath them or you go around it.
How much does something like that cost?
That's probably $100,000.
Oh. They put a picture, cut out picture.
Yeah, that's Sticker. So again, there's because I've been around for such a long time, I get asked to do a lot of different things to test things out. And this is one I thought was really stupid, but I loved it. You remember when you were young, that when your parents had just cleaned the floor or waxed the floor, and you get on your socks and you run, surf, right? What if you could do that in a water slide? And so this is you do a little run, and you surf down the water slide. It's a standing up water slide. I thought that was the craziest idea I ever heard until I did it. And it was so much fun. I mean, yeah, how many people are skiers in here? You know, it's just like skiing. You control your speed by how far you are over your skis. And so, but you can really go really fast, and it was a lot of fun. So but it's something different. You don't see that. Again, here's another idea for unique slides. And again, some of these are kind of over the top, but so like a ski jump, as opposed to a ski jump, you're you're surfing, you're flying over the landing. It's really safe. It's a triple trampoline underneath it, but it's again unique ideas. You get that friendly competition, having different types of water effects, or the other thing you can do is have just kind of these really fast free fall slides that go into rounds. And again, those are the types of things that you can do to expand the water slide program. Or you heard me mention a couple times transparent type things. If you're going over lazy rivers and stuff like that, again, you can't see anybody who they are or what they're wearing or anything like that. But when you see it, they go by really quickly. This is expensive. I mean, this particular section, one of those sections is probably $10,000.
Oh, clear ones are more expensive than the salt. Oh,
They don't need to see.
Yeah. So again, slides or play structures. This is something we've done, zip lines into pools. They're a little different than the other kind of zip lines. This particular one, you will come off that bar. You got to make sure that this is over the water, because a lot of people don't have the hand strength to hold onto the bar. But as soon as they get out over the water, they come off anyway. And so you want to make sure you're in the water. But what happens, you get out here so far, the bar stops, you come off. And so, again, this is the other thing with a wellness pool. Again, that's what we're looking at. We have a lifestyle pool that incorporates the leisure aspect and the wellness aspect, so that you can kind of see, here's a ramp entry into this pool. Here's some nice stairs into it. Again, there's a warm water lap lane, a little lazy river, but this kind of a gutter system, the deck level gutter system that we can see both on the lifestyle pool and the leisure pool. Lifestyle pool and the lap pool, excuse me.
So on that picture, if you have steps up there for people to access, why do you put steps into the lap pool area?
Right here, code required. So basically, this is a great point. So in the design that you currently have, basically a lot of the locker rooms kind of come into the shallow water of the pool. This is a good illustration of all the locker rooms entering into the shallow water of the pool, which is important. And so these are an ADA required secondary entrance into the pool. Here's a more gracious one. Here's a ramp that will be a primary entry into the pool. And then these kind of ladders, they have actually grab rails on the side wall of the pool. And there's inserts for recessed stairs that are actually in the side wall of the pool. You have to have that. Most codes say every 50 feet, you have to have an accessible, you have to have a way to get in and out of the pool.
But there's not steps that go into it.
No, these are like a ladder.
Okay.
And so one of the things that are really popular are these bubble benches. Basically, it's like a little lounge, and there's little air bubbles that are like little bubbles that blow, through the lounge, and it's really a fun feature.
Okay, my brain's working. Wouldn't it be cheaper just to feed people a lot of beans before they get it?
That's a good creative idea. There might be some air quality issues with that. But anyway, so having massage features, having the sprays that come down, and then more of a white spray to kind of be a little softer. Again, this is a project that I did in Japan. You can see there's whole pools that are part of that. But again, the other thing that we look at play structures. Now, is that something that you guys have thought very much about, having a play structure in your pool?
Not really.
Okay. Well, the important thing about it is make sure you have fun with it. But when you look at this feature, you want to have transparency because it's an obstruction of view. Now, this is a big structure. The other way to look at it is maybe what we do, and we've been doing this, is put the structure on one side of the pool. So now you still have complete visual connection through the pool, but you don't have to worry about what's happening on both sides. The downside to it is you'll lose 50% of your play value, but you don't have to lifeguard it as much. So it's a consideration. You can see this particular one is showing how we put that right to the side, so there's no lifeguarding that is required on the back side. And again, the reason I kept this photo in is the fact that again, we're going to have a lot of light that's coming in here from through our sprung structure, and so being able to have that nice natural light in there, a fun place to visit, is really important. The feature transparency, the ceiling. You could possibly do something like this on a sprung structure, but it's not going to get much bigger than that. Here's maybe a water curtain that's hanging from the seating. You can see it kind of spraying. But again, that feature transparency is really nice. You can do different types of massage jets, or different types of things. This is something I just thought was kind of a funny thing. I saw this in Germany, and every day they turn this thing on and it freezes. It causes an ice pole. I don't know what they call it, but you see kids coming up to it, putting their hands on it or putting their finger in it, holding on until it melted to make an impression in the ice, just kind of as a diversity, dry land activity. So that's kind of some of the features that we wanted to talk through today. But again, going back to this, so kind of what the program that we heard talked about today is we want a lap pool, 6-lane lap pool. The water depths will be 4 foot with a set of stairs coming into it. And right now we're looking at 10 feet of water depth with no diving boards. Everybody agree with that? Maybe.
I'm wondering, would it be wise to build it deeper and
Maybe not by the board.
anticipation?
With that, maybe build it deeper and
Buy it, right, in anticipation of maybe required later, or
well, the diving boards, how many people have gone off the diving board there? It's one of those things that it's a unique experience every time you go off, right? You don't know exactly how you're going to land, unless you're a real experienced diver. And it also appeals as a recreational component to a hard-to-appeal age group, teenagers. Because I was something we did recently that had a diving board in the pool, and I was just amazed at how many teenagers were lined up, and the girls were showing off for the boys, and the boys were showing off for the girls, and I thought, well, that's reason enough to put a diving board in. And so, it's one of those things that, again, to think about it, and it's also good for competitive swimming. But again, I know how important the budget is too. And so it's one of those things that we could keep adding to the program, but at the end of the day, we have a budget that we have to live with.
Personally, I think we plan it to be a deeper pool to be able to handle it. And say the actual board costs us the $20,000. We can figure that out.
Okay,
Later. Well, we can't change it up the pool once the pool's in.
That could be a project system.
Yeah. They want that.
somebody on board to help us with pricing early on, as opposed to, we're gonna draw it up, we're gonna estimate it based on whatever historical data we have on what things cost, and then at bid date, we get surprised and it costs something different. Getting a construction manager on board, they can start pricing earlier. And so we would go through the schematic design phase, and they would, a construction manager on board, they would price it at the schematic phase. And we would know, we could all those six and we're within budget. If not, it's going to cost you X amount of dollars to add that. And we haven't gone into the detail of actually drawing that up and the hard work, but we can make those decisions when we have a really better idea of the overall cost of the project is.
So Doug, you said for a 1 meter board, we've got to have 11.6.
Yes.
That's the depth that we targeted.
And that fits the high school competition, so.
High schools don't compete in the 3 meter, only 1 meter. And so you could have 2 boards, in a pool like a 6 inning pool, 2 diving boards. I mean, you can start off with 1 and you could add another 1, or you could start off with 0 and add 1 and then add 1. So it's, but again, you have to have the water.
You gotta have the water depth.
Can't really change that.
So we need to look at 11.6. Regardless of cost, we need to look at 11.6 deep pool.
That gives us a taller climbing wall we can put in, allows us to do, we can't change it, we can put it,
Once we set the depth of the pool, we can't change that. Once construction's done, that pool depth can't be changed without tearing the whole damn thing down.
Well, it can be changed, but it's real, it's not major, it's major.
I don't want to pay for it.
No,
It's easier to plan to have a board in there, set it to the depth required for the board, and then you're done with it. If you don't put the board in right away, big deal.
But if high school doesn't compete at the 3 meter depth, we don't need the deeper water. I don't foresee the high school athletics changing, we're gonna have 3 meter depth, we're gonna have 3 meter board, and every pool that everybody competes in is not gonna have change. I don't see that.
For your community, and in any community that's not looking to do, FINA or NC2A competitions, you don't need a 3 meter board. There'll be somebody out in the community that'll say, oh my gosh, we're so close, we should look at 3 meters. And I would argue against that pretty heavily. But they'll go through what you can do, learn to even dive train for the Olympics, and if you really do that, go to the West Side Fly, right?
How does that work with the starting blocks? Are those movable starting blocks or?
Yes, they're detachable, but, so that's another good question. So the boards would fit in between the starting platform here and over here. So you can, when there's a swimming meet, as opposed to having the diving board sticking out into the pool, those are raised up and there's a support so that the actual competitors for swimming can go up the starting platforms without interfering with the boards. So anyway, so this pool, I guess, is kind of our base program that we want to look at is 11'6". Option for 2 diving boards on a starting platform, so that meets the WSI, exceeds the WSI standard. We'll have now we're actually going to be pushing out a little bit because the diving board clearances are a little bit more than the previous things I've talked about, but we're still going to have over 35 feet of water depth between 4 foot to 5 foot of water depth. We have a set of stairs, and we have the options for a climbing wall over here. And our spectator seating would be along this side of the pool.
That was something the swim coach mentioned. Is there any way the bleachers can move to the other side? Because during a meet, the meet referee, chief judge, and starters are on that side where the bleachers are now.
The answer is yes, but when you think about a competition, we can talk through this, we'll save the space for it. But when you think about it from a competition, typically what I would see happening is the athletes would be on this side of the pool, because you don't want the athletes and the audience to mix.
Right.
And so the athletes would be on this side of the pool, the spectators would be on this side of the pool, so they have direct access to the restrooms, they can come and go without interfacing with the athletes. That would be typically what we would see as a recommendation.
How much space do those judges, whatever are they called?
Officials,
Yeah, the
swim
officials.
officials.
How much space do they need?
So typically what we would see is the deck clearance is around, they need a minimum of 60, so they can walk back and forth.
Okay.
And so they can easily have that clearance over here or over here. So it's not going to be
No big problem.
that's not a big problem. But again, what we need to do is come up with a design, have the swim coach and his or her staff take a look at it and you know, comment on it. And see what kind of donation they're making.
They're not making any.
I know that's usual, that's the usual case, but they have a lot of input, which is
The
important.
only thing that they're making is demands. We'd like it this way, we'd like it this way.
Yeah.
Well, we'd like it to be usable for the entire community, not just applicable for the swim team. They're gonna have to accommodate us a little bit.
There's always the give and take of the situation. We want to get, again, we want to get as many people participating as possible. Yes.
On the visuals, where would you put the lifeguard stands on the pools?
That's a good question. One of the things that we would see in lifeguard stands, nowadays, most lifeguards are mobile. They're not, they have these great big tall stands that they're sitting in. First off, what happened is people were diving off of those things into shallow water and getting injured. And so the other thing is, if we put those things on the deck, you said, okay, we're going to have one here, we're going to have one over here, and then all of a sudden everybody's over here. And so having, what most places are doing nowadays is they're using these really easy to move chairs that take the chair where the people are, you know, but as long as they're elevated. And so,
To support that, I've seen that happen in our local pool. The guards will typically go to one corner, there's no lifeguard stand there, but the kids are all conglomerated in this one corner. The guard sets a chair there, and that's where that lifeguard sits. There's another one on a tower somewhere. But the most good lifeguards I've ever seen, even at our current pool, on duty at any time is 3, and then they're rotating a new person in every 15 minutes.
yeah, and the problem with the tower, or the lifeguard towers, is when you're not using them, where do you store them? Because the other thing is you can move them, but now you got to store them someplace, so that becomes an issue. So that's where a lot of facilities, as long as the health code by the state and Idaho does, allows you to have an elevated seat, but it's movable. And so, you know, it's now you don't have to worry about where it's going to be, because it's going to be where it wants to be, where it needs to be.
That's more practical.
Yeah.
I know the Ketchum pool system is designed so poorly that there are columns everywhere, and they have to hire extra number of guards.
Yeah.
because of that.
The other problem that they have with the stationary towers is when you're changing lifeguards, there has to be 2 lifeguards there, because one has to hold all the equipment while the other one climbs up, or comes down, as the case may be, and then they can have the buoy and whatever else up to them. So there's this 3 to 4 minute changeover where there's 2 lifeguards right there. With the chair, you don't have to. They can walk up, handle the life-saving buoy.
Well, all the stuff is right there anyway, and so it's an easy
Yeah.
transfer.
The towers make transfer terrible.
Yeah. And then they're not safe unless you're going to eat water. So I think that kind of talks a little bit about most of the stuff we're doing for the lap pool. And I would suggest, like I showed you in those images, I think I can, what we would, and I'll just go a little bit further here. So basically, we look at gutter systems. You know, we'll have most of the pools that we do have deck level gutter systems. Now, this is one that we've really been putting in a lot, is with an HDPE gutter system in it, because it's real safe, kind of looks like that. But the other thing, using deck level, one of the higher maintenance things in pools is ceramic tile. And so one of the things we're trying to get away from is minimizing the amount of tile that's used. It's nice architecturally, it looks good, it adds some color to it, but the downside is all the ground has to be maintained. And so it's we're kind of getting away from that unless there's some huge desire. But again, having a deep gutter that performs well at deck level is the current design standards.
So where would be the only place you would want tile or need tile?
The only place in this design, let's go
In the
back.
shower,
In this design, you would have a tile handhold, and then back here would be just deck.
So that'd be the only place you have tile.
Yeah. Or in this design, the handhold is built into the gutter grate.
So no tile at all.
No tile at all.
So the face of the pool is there with a little notch.
And what the advantage of this is, you don't have any underfloor piping. We'll have to look at the geotechnical stuff, but all the returns are in the gutter itself.
Oh.
So we'll kind of walk through this. This is kind of really getting into the weeds.
yeah, I prefer to stay away from tile as much as possible. If we don't have to have any tile in the pool at all, I'm all for that.
You will have to have some in the depth marking tiles. The depth marking, so you don't paint it on it because the paint doesn't last very long.
Right.
So the depth marking tiles will be a ceramic tile, but in the no diving. But again, in terms of the tile borders around the pool, we're starting to get away from these just because our clients are saying, I love it, but the tile looks good, but it's a higher maintenance thing.
Well, and generally where you're having pool failures is where you're going to, and I'm talking the main pool itself. If we don't have to have tile in that main pool, other for depth markers and that sort of thing, that's cool. Because every time that you have tile involved, that's your leak point.
It could be. The other place we're going to have tile on the lap pool will be the lane lines and the targets on the side. Because that's low maintenance.
That's easily maintained. It's a lot easier than maintaining a whole floor of the pool
On the deck.
and the walls and the deck and tile.
Yeah.
On your conversation of maintenance for the pool, the way it's set up, we're able to drain the pool completely, correct? And we're able to do maintenance on the pool. We just shut down the whole lap pool is closed for this week. All we do maintenance or whatever. And then, okay, the family pool is closed for this week because of maintenance and the lap pool is open. We're able to do that?
Yes. Just so we're clear, you're not going to be able to go like in the bathroom and pull the plug in this.
Right, I'm sure there's a huge process to it, but I'm just saying if time came for maintenance, we can take it off.
So the drain this pool, it'll be pumped out. The circulation pump will pump it out. And there won't be a barrier valve that you can open up and have a gravity drain out. I mean, I want to make sure we're all on the same page right from the beginning.
Well, I think our sewer line in that area is like 3 foot.
Yeah, that's problematic. And that's why we're draining the line with the pump as opposed to gravity. And so, any questions on this pool? I kind of want to go to this lifestyle pool. So let's kind of work around it. We talked about a water slide going into runouts. We'll position that. We're kind of looking at a 25 to 30 foot tall tower. At least initially, we'll see how that all works. We kind of like the idea where the slide might engage parts of this pool. That sound good so far? So let's talk about this pool. So we have a zero depth entry, which is really appealing for a lot of younger users and a gracious access. Now, this pool can go from 0 to 2 and be kind of disconnected from this pool, or it can go from 0 to 2 and then have a ramp that connects it to this pool.
Again, if we're gonna have that pool gracious entry, not necessarily the pull out model ramp, which your guys thought.
Well, let's go, my suggestion is, we show both ways. We can kind of see what it means in terms of its real estate, that, at least in that way, you guys can see it. That way, we can show one idea with a platform left. The reason we don't use the word elevator has all sorts of code requirements. And for platform, it's like, well, that's different. And so, we know that from architecture.
Right.
Trying to get through
So
stuff
what do you
like
call it?
elevator, it's like. So we'll show both ways with a platform lift and the ramp. We can decide that. But the important thing is having water 0 to 2 feet. And then it becomes, do we put a play structure in? We saw some different play structures where you can climb on it, elevated play structure. Or do we want to do features that are just kind of more transparent than a play structure? Anybody have any?
More transparent, I think, than the play structure, because the play structure would create an obstacle to some people.
No, the advantage we have here is we could put a play structure right along, if this is the orientation, we put a play structure along this edge, so that now it doesn't ever impact the lifeguarding of this, and you could have put a water slide on it. Whereas if you don't do it, you can put all your different play features out here, and you can put a water slide here, a water slide here.
That's in addition to the big water slide.
Yeah, for those
Yeah.
top slides.
A little kid slide.
That would be no slides. It would be kid slides.
So I have a question. We're talking about the 0 entry versus the lift. It could be either or both.
So it could, so the answer is, if we did a 0 depth entry with a ADA accessible ramp, we would not need a lift. But that 0 depth entry with an ADA accessibility has a lot of requirements to make it ADA approvable. If we go to more of the gracious style entry that would have 0 depth, maybe 1 rail on one side, but not 2 rails and platforms and stuff like that, and then you had go from 2 foot to 3.5 feet, with double rails, it's still not ADA accessible, so you still would need a lift.
But the majority of people would use the gracious.
Yeah, they would, but the people that needed it, like, that were wheelchair bound, or, they would then, so people with arthritis would easily just walk down a ramp.
Right.
But people that, needed a wheelchair, that get to the pool and get transferred into the water, they would use the platform lift.
So it would be real beneficial to have both.
Well, my opinion is, if you're going to use this 0 depth entry and then connecting it with the ramp, it's a real gracious way to get people in and out of the pool. And so the little space we go from 2 to 3.5 feet is worth that extra space.
Yeah.
But you still need a platform lift.
So to get approval for the building permit, you almost have to be ADA approved, right?
You have
So
to.
you have to have that lift.
Yes. Yeah, that's not an alternate. You have to have an ADA approval to the ADA guidelines, accessibility from the parking lot through the locker rooms, into the pool, and out of the pool, and back to the car. Is that correct?
So the lift platform, to me, is a must.
Yeah, that's not optional.
Yeah.
But in the,
But the gracious entry from the 2.5 into the 3.5, I like that. I like that simply because it can give those of us who can't or have a problem with stairs, it gives us a way to get from the 2.5 into the deep water so that we can exercise. I have a real problem with stairs.
And is that just with the 1 rail, or did that have the 2
No,
rails?
it's just one.
it'd be probably one rail on
It's just an assist, but if somebody really needs to be, I just.
Sorry, I didn't, I should have put a plan in the section break here.
So that ramp to go from the zero to, so from ground level to 3.5 feet, right, is what we would need the ramp to be.
Yeah.
The double rail, the AHA, if we didn't have a lift, we're talking 42 feet, right?
Well, at 1 to 20
I'm
slope,
counting a lot.
at a 1 to 20 slope, it's probably more like 60 feet.
Yeah, I forgot it's only 20, not 12.
Right. So you get, because of 5-foot platforms, whereas a good 1 to 20, if you go to 1 to 12, you have to have the platforms, so it's a, so that, it's an investment when you start getting into a ramp.
It's a lot of pool space, that's.
And so that's where if, so to answer your question, you probably put, let's say we're just putting an access or an entry this way. If you did have, you put a rail here to keep, just to make it easy to get down. And then where you go from 2 feet into the 3.5 foot, you probably have double rails. It just make it more user friendly.
Kids are gonna like to play on that.
So
So
that,
then where would you put the lift platform?
so again, this isn't a design, this is just a placeholder for a design. Again, if you were going to do this, maybe what would happen is these stairs would be, recessed in there. There would be another box like right there where that platform would go. So again, that would be flush with the face of the pool.
Sure.
And the program water, so this water becomes 3.5 feet, this water's 3.5 feet, and then you probably get deeper water over here, starting to 4, depending on what depth we get out over here. Now, one of the things that we're seeing in this kind of a pool, especially for water exercise programs, is a side, instead of like this pool, we have an end-to-end slope, where this is 4 foot of water, and it ends up to be 11'6" down here. What we see in a lot of these multi-purpose program pools is a side-to-side slope. And the reason for that is you could be at 3.5 feet right here, you could be at 4.5 feet over here, a gradual slope. And so now you could actually have 2 water exercise classes going on in this pool. And you have people that are my height being in the shallower water, people that are taller being in this deeper water right next to it. It's a different way of thinking about it. We do that a lot for athletic clubs and YMCA's where, it's the side-to-side slope as opposed to the end-to-end slope. So we can show you the plan, and then we can kind of decide on how the slopes all look. But this one here's the topic, yes.
So you were talking about putting the bench in the lazy river section with the jets,
Yes,
and that eliminates the kiddie pool, right?
that would be a substitute for it, because, these whirlpools in a commercial setting like that, budget-wise, I would say that's probably $180,000 to $200,000 component. There's nothing inexpensive in the pool.
But if we could turn that into making Lazy River a little bit longer, a little bit wider, to allow for that seating bench in there, and still have a lifeguard where it's not where the walls aren't super high, we can easily see both sides of Lazy River. How much cost are we talking about adding?
So to do in Arlington, the cost of putting it already had jets in it, so all we did is add the heater and the controls. That was probably somewhere in the neighborhood of $15,000 delta. So it's pretty cost effective. But the difference is, a warm water whirlpool like that is usually kept at, or hot water whirlpool is kept at 103 degrees. Here, depending on what the water temperature is, it's 88 degrees, but it feels warmer because you're pumping out 120 degree water.
But you can't pump that out all the time.
No, so it'll never get to 103, right? Otherwise, this whole pool will be 103.
You only need 5 years anyway.
I know, but that wasn't fine.
One of the downsides is with the whirlpool being
Well, no, the
separate,
seating area,
it's,
later.
breaks down, and then you have to limit the age numbers. You can't have somebody under 14, so there's somebody that has to monitor that. So there's actually more cost with the big separate.
Yeah,
than
I
having
won't
that,
go
because
into, I won't go into public whirlpools.
Because he said that's the one thing that goes down the most. And they have to supervise it more because there's always people that want to bring their young kids into it, or too young and they sneak in. And you're not allowed to be, I don't know what the rule is, I don't think it's a Y rule, but you're not supposed to have kids in there.
You're supposed to be at least 16 years of age.
Yeah, and so there's a lot of more, there's more to that, so you can kind of incorporate it and having it separate.
I mean, I think it's a much more cost-effective approach to put that into a river and social and all of that. But again, there's some people that would only come to your facility because they have 103-degree water temperature.
It's true, but, yeah.
We can go and
About-
get that.
That's all right, we'll have 20 people there.
But so here's an option. Another option is we've done this in several. One of the kind of growing trends is putting things outside that usually aren't. And so we've all been to ski resorts, and what do they have? Everyone has an outdoor whirlpool, right? And things that are. So that's something that you could conceivably, is if our mechanical room is down here, that is something that we could add on into the future and have it be an outdoor thing. The thing we have to do is plan for it so that we have heated concrete and stuff like that, so you don't get people.
But your expense is gonna be more if it's outside, because you don't have anybody out there to monitor it, right?
Yeah, you're right.
So it's better just to eliminate it.
Besides all the dirt that we're
If that's
getting.
if it's the problem.
And so,
Better is a subject as we're talking about. Better is some, not as good for others. But again, the idea of putting a whirlpool in the lazy river, that is a kind of something you could heat up, and would be, so it would look a little bit like, there was a picture that I think we had here. Yeah.
yeah.
Like that. So
Yeah.
you could do something like that, where you actually can see where the drain is here, you're drawing water up, you can kind of warm that water up pretty good, but I don't want to tell you that that's always going to be 103 degrees.
Yeah.
But again, it will be very pleasant.
I mean, that way with the benches and the center and our own heater might be more cost effective for us.
Something around like that where it feels more like a spa area, you have, you got a group of people, know each other,
It's social
as opposed to a long bench.
Yeah, I've never seen somebody walk into a pool with a thermometer, so.
Well, I have. But you wouldn't think that 100 degrees versus 103 degrees would be a point of conversation, but
Yeah.
it is.
If that's a problem,
They can go spend $1,000 flat hot tub.
Yeah.
Right there, right there.
But again, I think that's doing something like that and kind of, and maybe making that one area a little bit more radius is probably a good idea. The other thing is having that, the thing I would do differently from this design nowadays, from what I know, I would put this entrance closer to this deck so that lifeguards that are watching this can see in there, can see everything that's going on. And so, that's one of the, this was because here's the entrance to from the other pool into the lazy river, and so it's like, well, we'll just walk through here. But nowadays, there's too much stuff that can happen, and so having supervision is really important. So anyway, so again, the components are, and what we'll do when we come back with the design, we'll show the different options for the ramps and the platform lift. But the important thing is this program area from 3.5 to 4.5 feet of water is very important, because we'll start doing the metrics. How many people can you have in a water exercise class? How many people can you have in a learn to swim class, and all those types of things, both from the dynamic end. We'll do that for this school, but That way, we hear we want a lazy river. I also did hear earlier that maybe make it just a little bit longer than that.
I'll stretch the river around a little bit. Yeah. Because if we're, right now, the current plan is this little single wide bench, right, that's on the blueprint, or on the placeholder. But if we were making it a larger seating area, because you want to have about 10 people inside that area.
Yeah, I would say 8 to 12 would
But
probably.
that would make, if we got rid of we don't need the plunge pool, and we didn't have the kiddie beam, that opens up a lot of natatorium square footage. We can stretch that pool out a little bit to allow us to have more people in that lazy river. So it's not this it's hard to tell on scale, you know, have a lazy river, but it gives us a little bit more space.
Well,
Instead of more people, a couple more people.
and it's a delicate balance, right? We can't, because the most expensive component here is this and this, right?
Yeah.
And so we have to do that, we have a building that's relatively cost effective to put over it. And so, at the end of the day, I know Nate's going to get into a conversation with different delivery methodologies, but, you know, it might be that it becomes, we don't need quite as much space indoors, we can lose a bay or something like that, if, you know, so there's all those conversations.
We need more of a balance, the size, so if you took the spa out and you reconfigure that slide, it does leave a lot of room there, but
Maybe we could add a larger multi-purpose room.
yeah, well, we want to make sure we don't oversize. Well, we want the space in the natatorium to be comfortable, and you got room to move around and do all the activity, but we don't want to make it too big because it costs more money to do that. And as I look at this plan, it's kind of almost a segue into talking about the plan, so maybe we can talk about that up on the board. So before we start talking about any other questions for Doug on the pool side at this point?
Has this been helpful?
Yes.
Excellent.
Absolutely.
Thank you. So where's the pointer?
The top button.
The top.
Okay. You want, you can, so the side button is move it. You
Okay.
can use that, or I have a better pointer too if you need.
Well, the whole concept was, was the sprung structure and how to make that work. And right now, what we're showing, the parking lot is up here to the east. You come in, there's a check-in area, desk area, an office. We have a lifeguard office here, which I would assume would also have the stations to control the pools and all that. We have a pretty good oversized lobby area, so we kind of need to look at that. That's kind of big. We've got restrooms and lockers on either side. So right now, this one does come into the deep area of the pool, so we may want to take another look at that. We're showing restrooms inside the lobby area, and the reason we did that was for these competitions. People coming in with street clothes and everything, if their mom and dad are coming watching their kids in high school competition, do they really want to go into the locker rooms to use the restroom? We've got athletes and all that kind of stuff. So we have restrooms on the outside here. Then we have a multi-purpose room here and a large multi-purpose room here, which we figured could be used for all sorts of different things that you do here. There can be fitness classes, aerobics, yoga, those kind of things. We have things there. We have board meetings, all that kind of stuff that happen in this space right here. We've got a mechanical room here and a smaller one here, and that's the building mechanical room. We split that up because it's such a long run here that we probably would split that system up so that we didn't have so much long ducting, be more efficient. We split that. Pool storage and pool equipment, what Doug told us is we need about 1,200 square feet for the pool equipment. And then we want to make sure we got adequate storage for all those things that you're putting in the pool, taking out of the pool, whether they're blow-up structures, whether they're the nets for all those kind of things. Maybe climbing wall, if you want to take that out, basketball hoops, those kind of things. We want to make sure we have plenty of space to put those somewhere so they're not just sitting around and cluttering up everything.
Question on the mechanical rooms. He mentioned earlier to have the mechanical room closer to the.
Yeah, so that's one of the things we talked about that this morning, so when we start taking a look at this, we probably want to get this pool equipment down on this end somehow. So we're really going to come back and kind of reconfigure this a little bit. Maybe these two locker rooms come together. We just want to make sure there's a pretty good separation between where you're going for men and where you're going for women, so, and female, so that you don't accidentally walk in the wrong locker room. So we're going to be really taking a whole other hard look at this, but there's a lot of space in here, so maybe this whole thing could move down. You've got a full equipment room kind of over here, and this multi-purpose, everything just kind of gets shifted down. So we're going to kind of play with those things a little bit to come up with a more efficient design. One of the things we've got with these locker rooms, right now it's a big open space, but I would envision there be more rows of lockers. In here, we always get into the conversation of, are they half-height lockers or are they full-height lockers, and how many we put in there. So we'll need to have that, answer that today, but it's something that it's one of the details that we're going to kind of need to get into. So I want you to start thinking about that. Most of the stuff like the YMCA and everything, they're pretty much half-height lockers.
Could you do a combination, say like one wall has all long and then the middle ones have?
You can, or you can have a bank of double height
Right.
and then a couple of long, tall ones in the bank. I mean, we can mix and match.
Mix and match, just
Me, I was a little concerned, we couldn't see a scale to tell how big those rooms were. But I'm a little concerned about the office space because as a public entity, we've got years and years of documents that we have to keep on file. And so I don't know how big that office is, but if your lobby's too big, maybe we could move the
Yeah.
office over and make it a
So
little bigger.
maybe some additional storage off of the office area.
Yeah.
Okay, so once you move that. How many people in the office? How big an office do we need?
I think, well, there's two now, but I think later on, probably we'll have just one. I'm just guessing, I don't know.
Yeah.
Have one person take over all.
Usually office staff does it without.
Yeah.
But
I'm
we
on
don't know.
retired.
Sorry, Judy, you can't,
And-
you gotta use.
But
Contract
anyway,
with the building inspector.
it's a matter of documents. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that has to, we've got a number of filing cabinets and stacks and stacks of notebooks of documents, and we can kind of purge and get rid of duplicates that I just looked at that and I thought, well, how big is that? And we couldn't find a scale. And at this point, we may not have one, I don't know. But anyway, it's something you need to look at.
Well, I don't think we need that huge a lobby area
Yeah,
either.
we can expand some. So another question I have, so we're talking about this administrative area. Would you have a need for a small conference room? When you guys come in, when you're not having a board meeting, you want to sit down and talk?
Well, you've got the one small meeting room. They could meet in there, couldn't they?
Good.
Yeah.
How, what's the ballpark of that? Is that a 20 by 20 room? Is that this size of a room?
Oh, this one?
Yeah.
This one's probably about the size of this room.
It's a pretty big room.
Oh, wow. That's the
The
reference.
larger area is huge.
It's huge.
Yeah, it's huge.
It's very good.
Yeah, that's what we needed a scale there.
I mean, you can see the multi-purpose room, distance of the longest wall there is as long as the pool.
That's true, that's huge.
So that's pretty good.
How wide is that?
Well,
Probably bigger
that's
office.
cool.
Yeah, if I can, we met the last time, he couldn't make it today because he's at the Northern Idaho Conference, but he's got a code plan for us, I didn't bring that, I think we've got occupant loads of all these spaces figured out. So we'll bring that back next time to show what the occupant loads are, so you know how many people, we say, well, that's what we do.
Well, the plan is going to be different than them too.
Yeah, you have to make the mechanical room on that side.
Right.
That might,
Yeah, but if we kind of shift everything down, make the lobby a little bit smaller, maybe this moves down and well, if we, the flippers on
or maybe flip-flop the locker room and the multi-purpose room. So like our office is kind of more of an administrative hub instead of kind of separate.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's a possibility. We were thinking that we keep the multi-purpose room over by the warm water activities, but,
Yeah, because this is one of the things you can rent it out for birthday
Oh,
parties
yeah.
and things like
You
that,
can
and
still
having
put
that
that where the
access.
women's locker room is, and it's still access right to there.
And with that, what kind of kitchen facilities did you have there? Just
Well, we're showing, right now, we're just showing a counter and sink area. And as far as the kitchen, when we start getting into adding stoves and things like that, we get into a whole different code. If you're prepared.
We want to stay, I think we want to stay away from the stoves. and
Yeah.
refrigerators.
But one thing we did bring up was washer and dryer, if we were to potentially furnish towels and do that stuff with our.
Okay.
That's
yeah.
Yeah, we can do
that's
that.
all.
It's usually in the store.
So for expandability,
Like these body structures.
that multi-purpose
You
room
want it
is on the corner that opens up to that fire hammerhead, right?
Yes.
Correct.
Yeah. So if we move the multi-purpose room, we'd have to figure out how can we still expand for student parking, or we want to add classrooms, we want to add other stuff. Part of our floodplain, or where we're allowed to build, you know, we can go off that corner and then another, put a building between, maybe another sprung structure, for like a phase 2 type construction, phase
Well,
3 construction.
We can build in this area, we just have to raise it up out of the foot. Right, we have to do that now anyway with this area here.
And did we talk about moving the building closer to the roadside, or what was the?
We can, we just kind of plopped it down where the previous one was.
Because that would allow us more, I don't want to be right on the road, but that would allow us more road to.
One of the
expand
things,
later.
with the previous structure, because we had a gymnasium on this side of the building, which is a big tall space too. One of the things we don't really want to push it too close because you have this really big structure right against the building. And it needs a little bit of space in front of it just to kind of help bring the scale down. We'll work with our landscape architect as well because we're going to be digging a lot of dirt out of here. We need to put that somewhere. And so we could possibly put some berms around here. Kind of just visually from the outside, just bring the scale of that building down. So you can stop driving down the road and 50-foot tall building. So we want to play with those kind of things. The other thing, because this is a strong structure, a mechanical system, everything's going to be outside on the ground. Can't put anything in the building. So we put stuff out on the ground, we want to make sure we get some retaining walls or get some walls, so visually you're not driving by or walking by and seeing all that equipment just around the building or buffer that sidewalk. So maybe create some berms, even if the berms are only 3 or 4 feet tall, so mechanical equipment's down low on the other side. You don't want to have to haul that dirt away. You want to just move it around the site. All the way to the cost that goes with that. So. The other thing, plan-wise, spaces that we're missing, adjacency types of things, anything you can think of at this point?
Since we're eliminating some of the pool space in the aquatic room, is there space on the end wall to add some storage?
Oh, down on this wall,
Uh-huh.
down here. We can look at that. We really had envisioned this being transparent, just so we have either full glass doors or right doors, so that there's a lot of daylight that comes between here, and you have a kind of this visual connection, so you see out into this.
What about a shift? Put storage space on where it says pool storage, pool equipment, shift both pools. Since we don't have the kiddie in the spot, but just shift the whole thing down with the 20 feet or whatever it is. To give us more space on the opposite side.
So put more space in between here for.
No, even shift the lap pool down as well. Take both.
So there's more deck
Move that
space.
down, yeah, move that whole leisure pool, lap pool,
To this,
Toward the
move
splash pad.
everything,
towards this one.
yeah.
Just take both pools, just slide
And
it
then
closer to
move-
that wall, since we don't have the other 2 pools anymore. And that would open up more space. It's already on the closed side of the structure on the north side. and it would allow you to have, we could put a conference room, offices, and all that kind of stuff on that side in storage, and not interfere with sightlines, or get all that daylight in and all that. We can put that on that side. What's the thought on that?
What I would suggest is let us kind of create some ideas, but that's an idea to kind of move that stuff down and keep that all closer to each other. Let's take a look at, I think the really important thing is having enough storage space in multiple areas, because you're going to have the kind of the lap pool storage, you're going to have kind of the storage for the lifestyle pool that you kind of want to have. And that's been accomplished with those two different storage spaces. But I think that where that multi-purpose room and all the locker rooms go, I think what about family changing rooms? Have you guys had that discussion at all?
We did discuss earlier.
I think.
We were talking about having a couple in there somewhere. Yeah, or where
Instead of the locker rooms, basically you've got kind of an open locker area, and male and female, when you go in and change, you have separate individual changing rooms. We had that in the previous design, but I think we talked about that.
We
And
mentioned it.
But I wonder, like those front bathrooms, which, I mean, it makes sense now to have it for spectators, but maybe you could make one of those like a family bathroom.
well, we still have to add, what's not shown here is we have to have like a family changing or assisted changing room, assisted restroom. So we're going to add one more. It's a single closed restroom. This is an assisted restroom.
Okay.
So we have to have that.
Okay.
We'll get that included as well.
And I mean, because changing is so important in the users, one of the things I'm starting to see a lot more of is instead of having those men's and women's restrooms out in the main corridor space, is having kind of that closeness for I guess the new term is universal change rooms, right? And have maybe a kind of a clear shot through there, but have the changing rooms for people that need assisted changing rooms or family changing rooms or transgender changing rooms, so that those all occur in that corridor, and so that's also where spectators can kind of access the pool as well. And it's because when I go back to facilities, one of the first things, when you ask the question, what would you do different? Invariably, one of the top three things is more family changing rooms.
I agree, just because, I mean, being a mom of two littles, it's a lot better if a husband can be in there to help wrangle one while I'm doing the other, and, if we have to be in separate locker rooms, and we're either going to both have to take a kid alone, or,
The problem is, if I go with my daughters,
yeah.
They're too old maybe to go to the men's locker room, and I'm too old to go to the ladies' locker room, right? And so, that's where,
We'll take a look at that when we next go around, switch to different options.
The other thing, looking at it, when you told us the center height is 40 feet up in the air. Could we, for storage, not necessarily pool equipment, some of that stuff might be heavy, but could we have a mezzanine, second floor? Or is that a big
We can't
building?
support it, we can't, the strong structure people will let us, it's all we can get, give the same lights or mechanical works. They won't let us.
Or I meant just on top.
You mean on top of this, lower the-
multi-purpose walls, make those low-bearing walls and put.
Put something up above.
Yeah, no, not over the pool area, I meant just over
the
office space.
Or the office space? Yeah, there's certainly height.
For that section over there, just create a second floor, maybe not an occupied space, not a publicly occupied space, but you could throw a couple offices
Yeah,
up
there might be enough room.
Yeah.
If we keep it under 3,000 square feet, anything over 3,000 square feet, we gotta put it out there.
Could it be a couple 3,000 square foot spaces?
All right, Mr. Fireman.
Unfortunately, it's cumulative, isn't it?
No, I think it's just one space.
So if we have a 3,000 square foot over one edge.
Over one side and one.
The open lobby walk-in area is full height, and then you got another one on the other side.
Yeah.
It's the letter of the law or the intent of the law.
Which one do you want to do?
Yeah.
Building houses,
build a shed on the outside for our storage. For things that we don't really need.
I think the long-term thought isn't that it's going to be for storage.
Yeah, that's true.
But it would be good to store all those files and stuff for new meetings.
It's the stuff that we're not gonna use, but like coolers, I mean, if you look at a store, we've got coolers, we've got gazebos and all that kind of stuff.
New Christmas
We have-
decorations.
No, we don't need access, that's it all the time. If we had that one that's 3,000 square foot of space, we don't have to store other stuff in.
Just stuff that seems
Sell them.
scary.
Sell them for
Well, we may still, you know, when we start having more programming, we need stuff like that. I was just thinking that might be something like you get a stairwell off the office or whatever.
Well, it'd be a good idea, a good place for us to store our Christmas decorations that the city is currently storing.
Oh, yeah, that's one of
Those
them.
come out. Oh, those are big.
Yes, they are.
But yeah, if we just use some of that space.
They're gonna have
Put it
to
in
touch.
ours. But if that's only the second half of the lot. But it gives us a lot of square footage.
But I'm not seeing any storage at the multi-purpose rooms for the tables and chairs, and are you going to still allow the quilters to store all of their stuff, or are they going to take it home again?
No, that's not on this topic.
We haven't fit that in yet.
Well, we just store the tables against the wall now.
Well, I think these are placeholders for the,
Yeah, I think
the
we're
more details come in.
Storage for tables and chairs.
I mean, what's labeled as a mechanical room, that can be changed into a storage room and put mechanical somewhere else.
Or with the scale of this, that would be wide enough for that quilting machine and then some.
That's Quilter's problem, unless they want to sell it.
They keep saying it's still ours.
Well, if it's still ours, then let's sell it and get rid of it. And that negates that problem.
It's not ours.
See some
It
tables.
belongs to this. You're talking about the machine.
Yeah.
It belongs to the group.
The quilter table is us.
So
It's all about us.
Digress.
the takeaway from that conversation is we should plan for a little bit of storage in that multi-purpose room for like tables and chairs and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's reasonable.
Then I agree with moving the locker rooms together, if we could. I don't know how we would do it, where they're both pointing on the shallow end and maybe closer, because right now you've got, I guess they're not going that far, it's a left and right, but it dumps the men's locker room way out on one side. So anybody, they're gonna walk full length of the building, get the warm water stuff, and I just see my 6-year-old bolting.
I'm getting his head split open when he falls on it. That's
Pretty
what I
much.
said.
And is there still going to be that glass wall in between the two?
Yeah, they're HVAC controls, yeah, there will be a wall.
Yeah, the thing is, it won't be an acoustical wall, right? Because we're going to do a structure to be acoustical.
And then it'll have windows in it so you can see through, but it's to control the heat.
Do you really think you need a wall there?
You have to have it to control.
Because the air temperature. needs
I'd
to
rather
be
not, but I don't know.
Yeah, I think we should probably explore that. But the thing is,
The cooler water side, you gotta have cooler air. On water side, you gotta have warmer.
I think what's going to end up happening is that might not be a full height wall that go through there. Just because, you start thinking about, Gib will have to talk with Sprung about that.
It's pretty tall.
Yeah, that's a pretty tall wall. But the main purpose for that wall would be, it probably won't be acoustical separation, but when you have a swimming meet, that you can control this environment with the athletes and as opposed to everybody that's going down the water slide coming over and, impacting the swimming meet.
So it's really a control thing, it's not,
Yeah.
you don't have any concern about the air temperature?
Well, ideally, you would have this be a cooler air temperature than this, but I have a feeling at the end of the day, it's going to be pretty close to the same air temperature.
Yeah.
So I have a feeling that we're going to, for both the economy and everything else like that, there'll probably be a wall here for control, but it won't be for acoustic or that's my prediction. I'm not.
Well, yeah, Sprunk is pretty finicky about attaching to their building.
I think it's a good idea to put that wall there to control, especially the locker room flows and stuff like that. And,
Well, what I was thinking is maybe if the multi-purpose room and the mechanical room could somehow go away on the one side, move the other locker room together with the women's, the men's and women's together, put the offices and the restrooms on the other side.
Yeah, so your entry lobby and everything would get kind of move over a little bit over here.
Yeah.
So this would move over to this side.
Right.
So this becomes more part of the admin space. And so you've got,
And the offices.
these would flip 180 degrees, and so you have your lockers kind of in this area.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, this would get shifted over a little bit, but
Nate, where is 18th Street?
15th Street is down here.
So you're going to have the entrance all the way on the backside?
Yeah, that's the way it was on,
Or it was on the side?
no, it was on the opposite side. On the right side. 'Cause that's where the parking was.
why don't you go back to one plan, because you can show the site plan.
Yeah. So here's the road, you come in, parking lots here, and your entryways here.
So, like I said, we've got some more plan revisions to do, and we're gonna think about this some more.
So we'll come back at our next meeting, we'll kind of come up with some different options.
And the goal there is to either, one, actually keep it the same size, or if we can, make it a little bit tighter, so we can get a little more economy. Not necessarily.
We do have, this program guy just happened to be in town this week.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so he's gonna do a meeting, he's gonna come out and sit down with them, talk about strong structures.
It's a great looking facility, isn't it?
Yes.
That's one of the things where we at the landscape side.
Just got some more detailed, and this was actually the kind of conceptual plan. So this was kind of the limits of our construction, was this area around this dotted line. So everything that's shown back here is all future zone. Just to kind of show you what will fit back here, can fit back here. We've got room for a full-blown soccer field. We envisioned some kind of a trail going around that, running trail type of thing. And that could be a future thing, and it's in the floodplain, it's something you can do in the floodplain. We have parking in the floodplain, we have fields in the floodplain, which is one of the reasons we have the parking on this side.
Which is from a master planning perspective, having that nice visual impact from the interstate, but also once you build this out, having that parking lot in the center of all these indoor and outdoor activities is really going to, make a very much.
We've got, if we do another structure down in here and connect it somehow, we've got a corridor coming down here, so maybe we look at that future connection somewhere in here. Makes for a really good composition with the parking that kind of serves both areas. Any other questions? A lot to digest.
Yes, it is.
Where's the sidewalk on this?
Well, this was kind of a conceptual plan. There is the final construction documents have a sidewalk along here. There'd be a sidewalk that comes along here. This area we envision as kind of a bus, parent drop-off area along here. So sidewalk here comes down, and there'd be sidewalk all the way.
Hey, this is more a comment than a question. Your office prepared the request for qualifications, didn't it?
We just had a sample of one that
Okay.
we used. in-
I just wanted to make sure, I thought your office had the correct address, but you've got our zip code for the Mountain Air Force Base.
No, I changed those.
And
I made
so
those
you,
changes, so I can make that change.
okay, but I want to make sure his office, if he prepared it. you
No.
got
No, we
that.
didn't prepare that.
You did,
I
okay,
said-
I thought you
I
did.
edited this.
I just said a sample of one. Well, we sent Puget County on it, so.
Yeah.
Tree, 135. 35,
Yes, I'm preparing.
that's, okay.
This has been really helpful.
Okay, so when Doug gets back, we'll kind of talk about our next meeting. We'll imagine probably 3 weeks. Will be time for us to kind of come up with some concepts, and then we'll see what his schedule is. He flies along because he's in Germany last week, so. For a project in Hawaii.
In Germany for a project, that's what he said.
That's what he said, the developers in Germany building a big project in Hawaii.
We're sure.
And then, 30-foot wave surfing hall
Oh, cool.
thing.
Does he need an assistant? Or carry his back?
Yeah, I think most of, I don't want to start laying in anything too soon, because he needs to lay us pools first, I think. Kind of give us an idea of how he's gonna consolidate those warm water.
Well, I think we can stay, if we stay,
Are you okay with us using the hard walls here as kind of our limits? Or are you gonna need some more for the area of warm water?
you know, within here, you think?
Well, I think we'll fit within that footprint.
Even with having the lazy river going around the circular, would you need more width? You know,
Well, because we have that area where the plunge pool is and the water slide is right now, that we can maybe
You can open it up.
capture some of that space.
Okay, so we won't try to make these
Yeah,
small.
so we'll stay behind here, and we'll work in this area to see if we can get the full equipment over here. And
How about the bleachers? Is there enough room, or do we need a little bit more room on that bleacher side?
You know, I think I think it'd be really interesting to have a conversation with Sprung about the differential in cost for where you had that little insert from the Sprung structure as opposed to just having a straight wall there. You know, if that's, what's the,
Yeah, but what we envisioned there is the columns for sprung would come here, and they'd be open, and you'd have this wall behind it, it would be transparent. The whole idea would be to see some activity from the street as you drove by. And that was, they were thinking about doing the same thing here, where the structure kind of comes around, but then the glass is behind it. This one, if we're burning up to cover up mechanical equipment, maybe kind of defeat our purpose here anyway. If we were to, because the structure comes out to here, if we were to just move this wall out, give you a little more room.
and that's where I was gonna go, on that storage side next to the lap pool. That might be valuable space for the deck around there, for storage and
Yeah,
stuff.
This
of that.
could actually be moved up more around this side, so that you got more room
Yeah.
here, so.
Well, how about that space there? Do you think looks like about 6 foot through there.
Yeah. Right now it's placeholders until we start really getting into, I think 6 foot is fine because I would assume those are typical bleachers. Those won't be there all the time, so we have to ways to get those in and out. But during swimming season,
Push up against the wall.
Yeah, I mean, these are out, so
Yeah.
they can be retracted against the wall.
Yeah, so on the day-to-day use, it's pushed up against the wall.
we might just pull one
During
or two
competition,
out.
yeah.
Yeah, they can pull 1, 2, or 3 tiers out.
Yeah. And so the important thing is separate the athletes from the audience, and I think having the audience on that side with the restrooms and all the.
Probably it's best to keep them
Yeah,
there.
and then the athletes would go on the other side. Now it's
You know, I
Is
was
that
just,
enough room for the athletes on that other side?
Well, that's where the storage might.
That's where he's thinking, taking that out.
Or at least part of it might go shortened up.
You know, maybe we need a little bit more room here for that. I don't know.
Because where the real important, I mean, the start and finish is where everybody's watching, right? I mean,
Oh, yeah, here and here.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, well, if these locker rooms get, moved down here, then you don't have this point here.
Right.
Maybe we can get these things a little bit longer.
Or get them a little bit wider, depending on if these move over here.
Yeah.
Okay. We got something.
Okay. So I think so tonight, or this afternoon, if we could do a little shred, for a little bit, we can start to get those pieces in the right places.
We're thinking about our next meeting. Your schedule's pretty busy. We're thinking maybe 3 weeks. Give us time to kind of explore some different concepts.
Absolutely. What day? What day works for you guys?
That would be
Which week are we talking? Don't matter, I don't mind, it don't matter.
So would we, whatever works for everybody else. So we have before Thanksgiving, it'd be the week of the 12th through the 16th.
Yeah, I think that week is take something, I think it has something on the 12th already, but,
Okay. But if we push it back towards the end of the week, let's say that, can you guys meet on Thursday?
or Tuesday or Wednesday.
Your schedule, please.
So we're looking at possibly the 15th.
14th or 15th, Wednesday or Thursday.
Wednesday better for you?
Yeah, I'm not looking at Thursday, Friday, it's tough, man, it's supposed to be at 4.
Oh, okay. So
So Wednesday.
14th then?
Yeah, 14th.
14th works better for you?
Got a meeting from 1 to 2 in Boise. Earlier in the morning, like 1 house. We met at like 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
The next meeting shouldn't take as long.
Shouldn't take long for review process. So, a week meeting, 9 o'clock.
Work for everybody else.
Meet earlier?
So you're thinking 9 o'clock on the 14th?
Doesn't bother me at all.
9
It's
o'clock
one of
on
those
the
days
15th.
like today where I choose to sleep late.
Gives me time to drive from Boise down to Boise back down to here, because we don't have to. Gives me enough time to have some breakfast, go to the meeting here. Leave this meeting, go up to Murray. Finish that, and we come back for our meeting over here. Put smiles on that day.
It's all right, you're young, you can do that.
All right, so, cool.
Thought about that, it could,
Yeah. And if you could like $1 million off of the cost, that would be wonderful.
Well, you're optimistic. Or you're giving me
It's
better
going
odds.
down, down,
We'll be
So what day again are we looking at? 14th of November?
Are you open on the morning of the 14th,
I believe so.
9 o'clock.
9 o'clock?
We can go here, or if you guys want to go to Boise, you can go on.
That way you wouldn't have about the,
Yeah, it was the same weekend, like 2 hours of drive time. But none of that,
You know, Dan's retired, Doug's retired, Vivian's retired. These two work for us.
so you tell us. Then you wouldn't have to meet at 9 o'clock if you have in Boise, you could have it like 10 o'clock.
we can do 10 if whatever meets, because yeah, I'm not
That
driving
would help.
over it, so.
Me dropping off kids and then driving.
Yeah, you got,
So, 10
10
o'clock
o'clock.
at our office.
Let's do the 10 at your office.
So 10
I
o'clock.
think that works best, don't you?
Well, you get to see their office, they have a cool office.
We've been in it twice already.
Before you go on to your next agenda item, speaking of all the retired people here, I did want to mention something that affects me. And I have sold my interest in
I'm well practiced, I've returned 3 times.
3 times? Well, I'm just
I'm well
gonna
practiced at it.
I'm gonna start another little business to kind of keep busy, but I don't want to work that much.
But he'll be in the meetings for the rest of the year.
I'll be here for the rest of the year, and by the end of the year, we're going to
Finishing up.
construction documents and those kind of things.
How long are we potentially looking at before we start digging dirt?
Well, theoretically, everything goes according to plan, degrees of money. We're shooting for spring, bring on ground, probably late spring. Because we have to go through the documents, go through the whole permitting process.
It would be nice to bid before everybody else gets out there too. It gets busy, so, we could probably bid a little bit earlier.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing about a construction manager, which segues to your next agenda item. A construction manager can create certain parts and pieces throughout the project. Once we have the system design, some of those long lead items, I'm sure there's probably pool equipment that are long lead items. You can bid that and get that stuff ordered while we're still kind of finishing up the details of the drawings and things like that. So that's kind of the benefit. One of the benefits of being a construction manager. We can create bid packages at any time. We could do a bid package to finish up all the site work that hasn't been done, get that going early.
It is kind of a question about how much site work has been done.
Yeah, well, we're gonna have a survey to tell us what's been done out there. I can talk to President there, and they have a pretty good idea what to put out there.
I'd say they'd have a pretty good idea of what they've done.
I would hope so.
Then we have all those pieces.
Out full of hydrant hookups, main lines.
Oh,
That was all out there at the site.
so they have,
Cast iron fittings.
well, maybe they haven't finished the entire hydrant system.
I haven't seen a hydrant out there, right?
There's one.
There's one.
There's one.
There's at
There's
least
something
2.
underneath the bag up there too. I don't know what it is.
I might even go check out the.
No, there's a pipe and stuff out there. I should be glad of that mess. Yeah. See this. It's a great.
Any other questions for us?
With this construction manager, we're kind of jumping ahead. Say we go this route, we're still raising funds. What kind of spacing can we do? Say we end up, we're still fundraising the last million of it. Would a construction manager be willing to wait a while, move on different phases if we're having to? Or just wait till we get it all?
Yeah, I think
I think that would be the reason we would use a construction manager, because you could do that.
Yeah, 'cause like if we get this wrong structure built, and or we get the outside up, and we're working on the pool, or starting to put in, we just don't fill them yet, or we have to wait on the interior office spaces, or
Yeah, absolutely.
we have to stagger this out to finish. I know you say it's happening in County, but
Well,
I know.
yeah,
until I see the bank
pool
account.
work has got to happen first.
Well, that's what I mean, can we get going?
No, the construction manager can sit down at the very beginning and say, how can we, because they're gonna put their construction schedule together. And their construction schedule is also gonna have cash flow that goes with it. And so.
With
they're
cost
gonna-
points.
No. We can get this much done, maybe the multi-purpose room, some of those areas. They're just, they're built out there. We do mechanical equipment, the ducting and everything, and all can be done later. So those are some of the things that have a construction manager work, they help you work through that.
Rather than go through the traditional bid process where everything's, okay, you gotta have that and alternates, and then when the contractor doesn't want to wait for bid alternates, and he's got a certain time frame that he's expecting, whereas you go through a construction manager, you can arrange it all with him on board. We had to do different bids.
There were parts of the previous project that were constructing was unfinished phase. There was a big indoor playroom that the wives was going to put was big. I don't call it a long, but indoor playroom. That gives just a big empty shelf space for the initial construction. That money needed to be raised to finish out that space. So we can certainly do things like that.
The quantity projects, over 50% of the projects we do are Steve and
Yeah, I was just thinking about how that, we have to get things going, and get things building, and get the big stuff done first.
Well, that'd be a reason for them on board. I mean, you pose that problem to them, and when you interview them, you pose that problem to them. You say, we've got this issue, how would you deal with that? And good question.
Is your next business going to be construction act?
No, it's not.
Just checking.
I'm like, that's a good question.
Yeah, he said.
Actually, a couple of years ago, I was looking at the photographer we were using to take pictures of our projects. I wasn't really happy with it. We were using it because it was cheap, and we got what we paid for it. I figured there was a better way to do this, so I kind of took it upon myself. But my wife told me if I was going to retire, I needed a hobby. And so I kind of got into architectural photography. And I've been doing our company stuff for about the last year. And lo and behold,
Pretty good.
pretty good. So I'm gonna start with architectural photography business. So I'll be around. I'm gonna do hopefully all of our comments work. And I don't want to work hard. Yeah. So I'll still be around and love to. If you still want to come to meetings with these guys, I'd be happy to do that.
After the first of the year, though. You'll be coming to the government.
Yeah, before that, I'm still here.
He's still on the gear.
So who is the person with president?
Michael Rogers.
Was he on that job?
Well, he was. I know he was superintendent, but Mike, so I knows everything.
On the whole name change, do we need to update our correspondence to say this Lombard comment?
No, well, you can, if you want to.
Still the same.
Your contract with LCA.
Okay.
Yeah, we're not changing the contract or anything. It's
Okay.
the same company. And LCA stands for Lombard Contract. It's so funny because the company was founded by Joe Conrad and Lombard. And they sold out to a group of us in 1999. And so just because we wanted to be different, we decided to change it to LCA. And so we're generation 2, and so now we're selling out to generation 3. The first thing they do is they will change it back to Lombard Company.
Okay, that makes sense.
We also had a little bit of problem with the acronyms of other companies because it seems to be very similar to other
There's
companies.
a lot of three-letter firms, even in Boise. So same company.
Sounds good.
So speaking of signage, the board did vote to go back to the original logo for the right vision.
Well, the
Yeah.
black and white logo was never approved.
But it was on there.
It was used, but it was never
Okay. Well,
approved.
if you send me an email that's got that, we'll make sure
Yeah.
we don't use the old logo on any order.
I read that off your website, so.
If it was a new issue, we can change back.
Yeah.
Has this been helpful today to kind of?
Absolutely.
Thank you guys for all the great questions and input. Not so desperate when you start.
We'll start back up here.
Yep.
Well, thank you for the beautiful pictures they've been big help. Big help.
I'm excited.
Well, you know, it's amazing what we can do with the 3D rendering capabilities these days.
Yeah.
You know, some of that stuff we picked right out of catalogs, like the sunshades and stuff, and we plopped it on there. It's amazing the detail that comes out on the rendering.
Yeah, and the building structure is actually off strong structure website. We got the width and the length, and then they give you a 3D model of the frame. So our guy just takes that and pops.
It's handy to have a tech guy, isn't
Well, actually, all of our interns and our new people coming out of school can do it. So they all seem to have that capability, and we, all our stuff that we do in working homes actually has that capability. Yeah, I'm sure.
Scott, you said that there's no place near that has a sprung structure that we can see.
Yeah, there is actually. I think my town has some. I'm sure they do actually.
On campus over here.
Well, you can go back to the back side of the campus. I think there's some warehouses that they have back there. They're not, they're just white, and they might not be sprung structures, but they're very similar. Because we were looking at them as well, to a project over there.
There are a lot of the snow shelters that way too. The sand.
Yeah,
sort of like
yeah.
that.
Yeah, they're not structured.
There's some up at Betty, down by the old fire, there's a big arena, riding arena down there that is a sprung structure. Probably the easiest way to get to it is go to the mule, go out to 4100 and go on that, down to, see, now you got 4100 go this way, and 4200 that goes this way and turn left. You'll see the big facility out there in the middle. It's just a great big riding arena, and it's a sprung structure.
Do we want to go on to action? Yeah.
Instruction didn't go upstairs.
So I put a copy of this that Nate so graciously sent, and I edited it, and you can see where it's highlighted. Like, this first page has a highlight. This is when we want to do. That's what we need to decide. But later on in here, there's a timeline, so that can kind of get some better. But do you have a couple of questions on the qualifications? They put the budget in there, approval for 5 million. Do we need to put the 5 million?
This is a new look for us.
Maybe just put the total for what it's going to be.
I think it's actually on there. Turn it over though.
We put the current.
Okay, so we'll do the current.
Didn't quite turn out.
Yeah, it's 2.8, but it's like, yeah. That's.
I know.
That's how
Everything
much
goes back.
the,
Well, congratulations.
okay, so that number you think would be 5?
That would be the 5 million. Because both of them would be 5. Oh, 5.7.
Whatever it is, okay.
And they came back down.
The other one?
Does the information piece sound okay? Did I include it? Well, now we could probably take out the Whirlpool Spa.
Yeah.
Water slides,
We can probably drop this flat side tonight, or we can drop that one. The general use freezer, zero countries.
Anything else need to be added? I'm not missing anything on that. I think I know.
So, put our queue out, and we get that ready to go, and several contractors, secretaries, we'll see everyone, make sure that they're aware.
Okay.
Quite a bit one of those?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
And there's 5 or 6 million CMs.
Great.
Okay, thank you.
So nice to
That's
meet you.
nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you all. It's going to be, look forward to working with you.
Yes.
This is going to be fun.
Yeah.
We'll race down the slide.
Thank you.
That was the end of it.
See you.
That's pretty fun.
I would have a little advantage, right, in previous practice.
Yeah,
No?
you win that.
Nice to meet you.
No, it's,
Really great to be here.
whatever, but you have such great ideas.
Well, thank you. They all tried. That's going to be a great facility.
Well, I think you're lucky. Feel like we're heading in the right direction.
I'll tell them that.
Hey, I'm on the original part now.
He's one of the original. Oh, wow. Don't worry. No, they do. But
Yeah, so you're trying to.
Okay. What's the meeting here?
So I think we're now down to part C, right? Deadlines.
Yes, this timeline.
Isn't that a little short for the advertisement? Or if you advertise we only got a week.
Do we want to make it a little bit longer?
Give them 2 weeks.
Well, we give so it'd be advertised on the 31st and the 7th. for
Oh,
two-
those are the dates it's in the paper.
Yeah, those will be advertised those 2 dates. And then it gives them
1 month.
till November 1st.
No, till December 6th.
Oh, yeah.
Do.
So, yeah, it gives a little like 5 weeks or something.
We've got till 17th to rank it, and then we will notify them of the interviews.
Are you going to appoint an evaluation committee, or is the board going to do that?
I know we don't, I know a lot of people on committees. I would like to go in to help advise us, just so we can get the bounce off the people who look at this whole time.
Well, and Nate said he'd come.
Yeah, we can have Nate, because he's already our architect, and there's several people who do construction who won't be in this bid process because of the scale. It might be good to have on board, just to look at. I mean, see if like Alan Roberts or any of the other contractors, people who deal with improvements and construction here in the community might be willing to help guide us through this process. And there's a lot to it. It'd be good to have people who deal with construction on a daily basis out there. I don't know if we can get, I don't know if we're going to know that construction's going to do it, or I don't know, depends on who we get.
Well, yeah, maybe wait until we see who submits one, and then if there's people that
People who don't submit one,
maybe.
call them, verify they don't want to submit one.
Right.
See if they're willing to come in
really-
and help us.
I'm sure.
That's a
maybe
good
they'll
idea.
be-
That would just be my thought, because I can do construction, I know houses, and I know fire. What's that? You're on your own.
Yeah, I know how to bend nails.
Yeah, that'd be
I
good.
know how to run people.
But it'd be nice to have some outside construction expertise come in. Maybe not call it a committee, not give over the power to them, but have them advise us.
I think the board with a couple of advisors.
Claude Griffin Stoll
Yeah,
has done something. See, he was
He was on
on
the
the
committee
committee
before,
for the Catholic Church when they wanted to build over beside us on 18th, and then they couldn't get enough money. So he's got some background at looking at stuff.
That might be a good thing to ask.
Who else was on that construction committee?
What do you think, Dave?
Mark Hilston and Laura Foreman, with possible Johnson Hospital.
Maybe it'd be a courtesy thing to just ask these previous people if they would still be interested on.
Coming in on that. Because that's, that is what's going to be, Burns Hollow, they don't do this kind of stuff anymore, so.
And the whole thing is wonderful.
It would still be our vote.
We three
You'll be your
are the decision
decision.
authority.
Right, no, yeah, we're not going to pass it over to a committee.
Yeah, we want
to
to bounce
decide.
stuff off of them.
Yeah, that's fine. I understand where you're coming from, you don't want to pass it over to somebody else, but I would like their input. If it's something like
Exactly. I can agree with that.
Because there's going to be people who put this in to review contractors and requirements. It's nice to have some outside input.
Did you say Laura?
Laura Foreman, with Johnson Hospital.
Yeah, we can ask the previous committee, I guess, those who were still around, and then ask some of the other people in the community who want to be part of
the schools and all of that sort of thing.
I don't want anybody from the school district involved. That's personal opinion.
I don't think.
And
James is kind of, depends, maybe it depends on the day, his attitude isn't always congenial.
We don't want to get too big either.
But
You know,
Laura and
my
Alan
concept
and
is we're
Mark
asking
are
two or
great
three people.
people.
Yeah.
We don't need to bring in 30 or 40, 2 or 3 people to advise us.
Right, it would be nice to have the swim coach look at the plans for the pool when they come back. See if there's any input, but just email over, hey, here's what we're looking at, the pool, do you have any suggestions or changes? Maybe not necessarily have to come up from me, but for the school districts, like, hey, here's the pool side, because that's really the only program of the building that the school's involved in, is the swim program for that pool. Just saying, hey, here's the pool.
Well, they're not going to be able to contribute anything either. I don't mean that's the only criteria, but he's just kind of saying, you know, you like the idea, you're on your own.
Yeah.
He said, we really can't.
So back to the timeline on this.
Okay, that's.
Oh.
Are we okay here? Now I want to know
Recommendation of board of county code.
if we rank it by December 17th, I feel like it doesn't give us enough time 2 days later to.
I think we need a little bit more time to figure this out. But so why are we making a recommendation to the board of county commissioners?
Well, that needed to be edited.
Oh, okay.
Because this was, again, I took this from Nate and it was something for the county
Got it.
for a jail. So some of the words I need to change. Like I've changed all county to Western Delaware, the WDCRD. So I've missed a few here and there. That's why I need someone to really prove it.
Yeah, I see.
So I'll change that to just say recommendation.
Well,
Now,
Or maybe we don't even need a recommendation because we can just,
Well, because the board's going to be,
if we rank it by the 17th and then or if we get them back and then,
so the proposals would you on the 6th? We send out, so we have 6 copies of proposals. In theory, three directors or 3 people coming in, maybe 1 or 2 meetings to review it. Puts us out at the 17th to try and evaluate.
why are you evaluating before you interview them? Are you
Well,
going to evaluate the proposal before you interview
there's
them?
a whole ranking
If we get 15
system right
people,
on this.
so that we don't want to interview 15 people.
So you just want to narrow it down?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
To take it down from 15 people who want to be the general to,
Well, you've got to give them a little bit of time to tell them when they're going to interview, because if you get it on the 17th, and then you expect to recommend it to the board on the 19th, that doesn't give them
So-
time to, you know,
Yeah, like I said,
we're
let's just drop the whole
going
thing.
to recording to this
Drop it off.
before we interview.
The
So-
recommendation.
Yeah, I know, but to tell them that on say the 18th or the 17th or 18th, that we're going to interview, and
And then recommend
that only gives them a day or so to schedule an interview before then you recommend, it's not giving them time to schedule.
They have
to
to
get
do
together.
this too.
yeah, so we,
Yeah,
one thing we could do is, because we're not recommending, it's evaluate committee, interview, and selection. Just leave that to be determined, drop the recommendation to the board, because we are the board. Drop that, so that there's no delay. Once the 17th hits, we do our evaluation, then we do interviews, then we do selections. So let's not put a date on interview and selections, because we may not be able to get guys in.
Yeah.
yeah.
We could do an interview notification to let them know that we want to interview,
Oh, yeah, we can do
like
that.
that next day,
Yeah,
That'd be
December
great.
18th. And then to be determined would be the interview and selection.
That's a good idea.
And then recommend to the board later.
Well, there would be a
They're not going to
recommendation.
have one,
There would be a recommendation.
That last step we won't need.
you're just not going to do
We're not
that.
going to take that whole line out.
No, because that was taken into the Board of County Commissioners. This board is going to take care of it, period.
Oh, I thought she meant recommend it to the WCRD board.
No,
We're gonna be involved.
we're all going to be in the whole process. We're going to be living, breathing blueprints
Your
for 6 months.
December meeting, then will you select it at that December meeting?
Could.
Or wait till January because the meeting falls the day after Christmas, and you'll probably want to move it to the prior week, which is what I think.
So we could talk about it then. We need it.
Almost, I think we should probably just, for this one, we just do a special meeting, an announcement,
Wait, after Christmas?
after Christmas. Gives us time to, because we're going to interview, then we're going to have to think about it. What to do.
Yeah, because that's gonna be tight. Nobody's gonna want to interview anything.
Yeah, and nobody's going to want
At
to do
Christmas, huh?
anything that
We're
week
not
after
gonna
Christmas.
interviews until January.
It may take us some time, but we plan on announcing it at the January regular meeting. And if we,
That regular meeting is, you know, is the fourth week, it's not early in January.
right. Well, that gives us, if we have to, it gives us the whole month. Like, if we plan on there and we can do it earlier, great, if we've got one picked, but
Yeah.
kind of give ourselves a deadline.
But then that gives time for interviews during that first month.
Because with the holidays and all that, it's going to be a pain to get people out, especially if some of these contractors are local. And traveling to the winter to go down here. I'm hoping they do local.
So is the 2 weeks good enough for everybody to look through stuff, or since the time frame maybe bump it a little longer? I don't know, if you guys rank them and have that back by,
Let's make the ranking the 19th, when we have the December meeting, right?
well, the December meeting is technically the 26th,
Right.
Probably the 19th.
so you'll probably want to put it to the 19th. So we could do that and then just discuss it then.
Well, you still haven't determined, as far as I know, when you're going to have the interviews.
Well, that's because we won't know. Like, we'll have to, once we evaluate it, then we'll start calling and scheduling interviews on what fits, and then also trying to get the board in here. So,
Well, I guess you guys should probably make a motion to go this route or go the harder route, but since we just went through this whole thing, I'm guessing you don't want to do that, but
is it even
Okay.
forward, you want to harden it? Or do we want to go this route with I'm for going this route, and we have a guy with more
Manager.
space and plan this out.
That's my thought.
Not at all in favor of the Harlan route.
That also means hard to route, we have to have all money lined up before it goes. That would be, no offense, that'd be difficult.
You're
Unless
right.
you know a few people.
You're right, it would be difficult then.
But yeah,
You need to have some flexibility.
yeah, I think if we go with this, it gives us the flexibility we need so we can at least be moving in the right direction and not stagnant.
Oh, we're still waiting on another 1.2.
If we're not moving, we're not gonna get the money.
Right. And that's what I think people are going to see is if we're not, I had some criticism the other day where, well, why are you guys moving forward if you don't have the operating budgets figured out and you don't have the building costs figured out? Because we've got to move forward to figure out what the building cost is supposed to be. Like, you can't move forward.
if people are mad if we're not moving forward, so what do we do?
Yes.
They want to see a business plan.
Well, this is-
No, it was like, how are we, because we've still got to raise up to 5.8, we don't have 5.8. Why are we moving forward if we don't have the money? And then on operating costs, and if we're only bringing in so much money on taxes, how are we gonna pay the bills when people come in?
We'll figure it out.
All that kind of stuff. We don't even have the energy plan back yet, we don't even know how much it's gonna cost to keep the building. We don't get that until they're done designing the HVAC system and the R value of the building. Well, we don't get the R value of the building until storm structure's done. Until they plan, until the storm
They're
structure is
just
designed.
throwing obstacles at you.
Oh, yeah.
See you dance.
I did track and field, we're okay. I didn't still You put hurdles and a pool of water in front of me and still finished. Let's go.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we move forward with the RFQ for construction manager, general contractor process as quickly as possible.
Second motion.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Motion carries.
And
Now we need a motion on this
I'll do accept the changes.
to, make the change and then to advertise it, because I'm gonna have to get it sent by Friday to the paper.
Normally, the advertising
Oh,
is
yeah.
just a little brief thing. Do you have one written up there?
No,
Okay.
well, but we could do probably this first paragraph on this first page. The request for qualifications, I'll probably just leave that as the notice. So,
Yeah. With 5.8 or 5.75, what?
yeah,
Okay,
With the
5.8.
correction.
yeah, with that change.
Okay, so I make a motion that we advertise the RFQ by Friday with the first three paragraph, first paragraph listed.
You need a date.
With the first paragraph advertised in the newspaper by Friday.
Be in the paper next Wednesday.
To be on next week's paper for November, or October 30th.
Deadline's
you can put
the
it
26th.
I'll second that.
Yes.
2 notices.
2 notices on the 31st and the 7th for the Statesman, not the news. Right.
Or should we just do Mountain Home News?
I think the Statesman.
They're expensive.
Mountain Home News, you have to advertise
I
because
think it's
a local-
just a local thing. You have to.
We have to go to the news, but how do we get, well,
Nate says he's got people. I mean, do we want to spend that extra? Because the first one for the architect was smaller than this, and it was over $100 for one notice.
Did Nate say we should do it, or did he?
He just said send it to him. Just send it to him.
Just send it to him,
Yeah,
and he was
because
gonna
said there's
circulate
others
it
that he knows he wants to
to
do.
people that he knows.
So I think we just do the local, we're meeting code and we're,
let's do that. I've got a couple contractor notices in there too as well.
yeah, we just send them.
And people from Utah even saw Mountain Home News, and I said, you did it.
But yeah, it's all good.
Well, we put it in the Statesman, so that's maybe.
No, when I did it years
Oh.
ago.
Oh, okay.
We had it in the Mountain Home News.
Okay.
That's a long motion.
We need a motion.
Yeah, matter of fact, I'll second.
You I gotta get my vocabulary. Okay, so I make a motion, we advertise in the Mountain Home News and forward it to applicable contractors
And, I'll see.
and LCA.
And you're gonna do this before Nate has given you the final drawing?
Right.
Yep.
Because he's gonna be part of the final.
I'll second his motion, Mr. Chairman.
Because he'll be, so whoever is selected is going to be in the planning process before they design the HVAC system. The GM will be going through and figuring out, okay, here's some of the costs here, start figuring out the bid process to shorten the loop, because otherwise we have to wait several months, 4 months to
The
get
request
the
for
architecture
qualifications
design.
to
And they could still change. This way, when he's getting on bids, oh, we can't have it this way because of this. The architects are still in the design phase.
Okay.
Sorry.
Oh,
I'd like some help, man. A motion has been made and seconded. All in favor, say.
No, wait a minute. Say the statement again. Putting it in this paper, right?
Yeah.
That's this paper. Okay, all in favor, say aye.
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 Was that all we have?
Now phrase it well.
Now any general discussion?
Any other groups we need to try and talk to with assistance?
Yes.
Steering this
We're
along?
working on the senior center.
Senior center?
I think that you need to have, like you came in looking for 20 minutes before your meeting, the packet, that also if somebody is asked to speak at something, that you communicate either to Michelle or even me, that, okay, this is where, that we're being asked to speak, what time and everything, and to get it all together prior to presenting it and have at least 2 go to the meeting.
Yeah, we have a couple people going.
Good idea.
Yeah.
Was that a good learning experience?
Michelle, can you check on the therapy centers?
Peak center.
We've got at least 3 in town. construction.
senior center house,
Pardon me?
you got the help there with the senior center on the 10th of November.
I called them and nobody knew that they were having help there.
Oh.
So they were calling me back.
Okay.
If you are, I'd love to know what, we'd like to come talk to you, so. Listen to what they say.
Because you mentioned it too.
Yeah. They don't know they're coming in.
And there's at least 3.
But, you know, I mean, they could be having a senior moment.
Good possibility.
So who do we want to contact these people, like the therapy places, I don't keep fitness, wanted to schedule a meeting with them.
There's one right downtown, it's K corner from Home Over. I can't remember the name.
Yeah, that's peak.
That's peak.
That's
And
me.
Sessions is, peak therapy is just down the next building.
It's just down from
AZ.
AZ lumber.
No, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about Home Over, right across the street from what used to be Paul's.
Oh, yes, that's home health. No, it's not, but it's.
I think it says therapy.
Yeah, that's
It's
his
his
therapy.
therapy business, yeah.
And he just,
And he's gonna be interested to talk.
yes.
Isn't there another physical therapist over by the post office across from Big Smoke?
Yeah, Sessions is somewhere.
Scott Sessions.
Scott Sessions
Sessions.
is out in, across the mountains.
And Scott Sessions used to be a director.
And he was a director.
Do we want to try and schedule something to meet with all of them at one time, or do we want to do individual meetings?
Well, unless
Who's
we're
in
asking
charge
for
of
money and
this?
they want to mitigate each other.
I think individual, I think if we could get you to contact those 3 at least.
Okay, who's going to do the meeting?
And who's going to meet with them? We need to find out what your schedules are, so who's going to meet with them?
I can probably go, Doug can probably go.
In most days.
Lee,
From
on
this
certain
point
days.
on, my work is gonna be easy enough that I can
But we probably
just call
obviously
Russell and
want,
say, hey, I need to take tomorrow on.
But you don't want both of you
Right, it'd be just
to
one.
go.
We can't
Because it's a
both go
need.
together.
And so when she talks to them, you're asking, we'd like to get together with you, or let her know what it is. Setting up a meeting, and who's gonna do it and when, and that kind of stuff. I just don't wanna leave her hanging.
It could be, hey, can you give me 3 dates that work for you? Like to physical therapy, hey, what are 3 dates and times that you would be able to fit us in, and we'll get back to you real quick. And then she could just text us out, send the text out, hey, who would be able to do these days? And then we can reply to that, saying, yeah, I can do all 3 dates, or whatever, and then
That works. I can do it, you can do it. That'll work.
And then she can call back saying, hey, I've got a director lined up for any 3 of these, which one works best.
okay, so the call therapy places, what about the hospital you're talking about?
St. Louis is
I'll call St. Luke's because I've already talked to him and he said, I want to talk more.
Okay.
You notice how quick that came out?
I saw that.
Okay.
And depending on when,
And I don't know, I mean, maybe talk to Betty too and find out
yeah,
who you guys are
yeah.
reaching out to. Don't want it to be double and have.
Well, and there's also the hospital foundation, that one's, or Luke's.
And your attorney's the treasurer for that.
Yeah, I don't know if that's a conflict of interest.
It's not. But what we've done, we're developing a letter to send to the interviewee list from Shaw Snow. And we're going to approach those people. Some of those that donated money before said, contact us when you get started again. So that's encouraging. If you know of anyone that's not on that interviewee list, that would be a good person to contact without donating, you need to let us know. So,
The list you're talking about is,
it's in the Shaw Snow report, the people they were going to interview.
Were you able to get a copy of the report?
I was not able to get a report from the Treasure Valley YMCA about who said that they would promise so much money. because the interview list, Shaw Snow went to those people and said, would you donate? Some of them said, yes, I'll pledge this X amount of dollars. But that information was kept by the YMCA. Because I talked to Kira Elmo, and she said that she never saw the list of people who actually said that they would give money, which is ridiculous.
Have you talked to Rochelle Murphy?
I didn't ask her that question.
Because she was on that committee, and she has said if we need help on capital campaign here, that she would help. So I give her a call.
Excellent. Well,
I think we're getting to the point where if anybody in the past has said, hey, we'll help out. One way, shape, or form, we can try to reach out to them again and get them like that.
and if you know someone that wants to remain anonymous through the whole process, we'll just give you the donation packet and take it to them.
With that letter, do you want some of those flyers that we already have made up? We have a ton of them.
Yeah, we couldn't find the pledge cards. We couldn't print them. You're gonna show us how to print them on the copy machine. We found them on the computer, but we can't get them.
But I'm talking the trifold brochures too. You want to?
We've got lots of those.
Right.
Yeah, so you can take those.
And we're using some of that information in the letter.
Okay.
But we're doing two different letters. One letter is to those people that did donate money that we refunded to say thank you for your help before this is our plan now. That's why I wanted to have more concrete information from Nate before we wait for the actual amount and the plan. Because if we're doing the fun things like the slide and meeting, if the small meeting room is this size, the large multi-purpose room,
Will be large. It'll be an amphitheater. It'll be,
yeah.
like one of the concerns that were brought up by the Lions Club, or one of the class, was they wanted, we'd see more use out of an amphitheater. That's a whole, I mean, there's taxi districts just for amphitheaters.
And one thing that a recreation district cannot build an auditorium. That's in the laws.
That has to be an auditorium district.
Right, has to be an auditorium district. So that's why you call it a multi-purpose room and you have a portable stage.
Yeah, but we could do something like that.
Right.
But there wasn't there wasn't context for us to figure out how big this stuff is. And when he says the small room is this,
Yeah.
that would have been so nice to know like 2 weeks ago.
Another thing that the committee wants is our quotes from different people in the community, like the mayor,
Well,
Shirley.
and Scott Sessions. But Scott has a good reputation, and Mike Flower from the hospital on the value of the facility.
She can get with us.
Yeah, let's have a scale on some of these things. We can make that multi-purpose room to handle even a modest concert. Because one of the things is mountain wise.
The thing we have to have seating. And so that's another expense that we're going to have to pick up kids too.
Well, with that counts, having that would be something we could look into is the folding chairs and all that kind of stuff.
Okay, could we, sorry. No, that's okay. Can go ahead and conclude then, and we'll do some talking as we go. Do we have anything else on our agenda right now? Nothing on the agenda?
I make a motion that we adjourn.
And I second that motion.
Going once, going twice. All in favor, say aye.
You should have a cut and paste block
We're adjourned.
for that every time because
He always says it.
that's his line.
5:40.
And just change
Even
the
over the
time.
phone, that's his line.
You hear that over the phone?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like that's the line.
That's the one that I can always make correction